almost over. Can you feel it? I'm telling you right now, you should be ecstatic and happy if you are a Caitlin Clark fan. I had another epiphany over the weekend. Another epiphany over the weekend. As we welcome you into this Monday edition of On Cue, Rich Quinones here. We like to label a Man Up Monday. We like to label this, when we have epiphanies like this on the air. We talk about Lunas Manolo Man Up Monday edition of On Cue. And let me just tell you this. If you watch what transpired this weekend in the world of sports, if you watched the WNBA over the weekend, if you watched Caitlin Clark last night, if you watched Mitchell last night, if you watched the game last night, it is over. It's absolutely done. She is on the move. Pack the bag. Sayonara. See you later. The exploitation, the sabotaging, it is about to end. The trade deadline is right around the corner. And all you need to do is be a reader of body language. You just need to read the room, because at this point, what else is there left to do? At this point, what else is there left to do if you're the Indiana Fever, if you are Caitlin Clark, if you know right now the eyeballs, everything's going to be on you. And the body language, we're going to read into it. And all the fouls are going to be on their microscope. And turnovers are going to be on microscope. And did she score too many points? Did she not score enough? Did she shoot too many times? Did she have lackadaisical moments in the game? Did she flip? Did she flop? It's about to end. It's all about to end. Because if you are the Sparks, if you're a Fever fan, if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, you got the best news over the weekend. You got the best news over the weekend, because the Sparks turn around and they fired their GM, Reagan Pebley. And they came out and they said what they had to say. Happy for the leadership. Here we go. Listen, at the end of the day, it was a bad hire. They're a rebuild. The expectations were there. They've got some expiring contracts. She came on during the 2024 offseason. Look, you already had some plans. We were already talking about the new CBA, right? So you get you just had to deal with free agents, right? Nika Skylar Diggins, changing teams in the winter, both in their mid-30s. What's the realistic path for LA? Here you go. You got to turn it around, rebuild. You trade Jackson. You got Brink. Okay. This is why the player that you want to build upon, the player that you can actually win a championship with, the player that is going to put eyeballs and fannies and asses in the seats, who's absolutely being sabotaged and exploited by a friggin' woke-ass league, Caitlin Clark, needs to be traded. And I believe it's about to happen. And you watched that game last night. Body language is prevalent. Body language is everything in this life. It is everything in this life. And once again, so dismissive the media is. Once again, so dismissive the franchise is. Once again, so dismissive the league is. Yes, they turn around, they waxed the defending champs last night, 109-75. And the funny thing is, everyone loves to throw stats at my face, because I like to back things up with stats and facts. But sometimes you guys like to throw it right back at me to hammer home a point, or to dismiss a point, or to push a narrative or an agenda, whatever. So if you think about this, Fox News has the story that Caitlin Clark breaks the WNBA record, right? Because she's the quickest player to get to 600 assists. Fever don't even acknowledge it. WNBA doesn't acknowledge it. And oh, by the way, the rat ship doesn't even acknowledge it. Their second paragraph on their recap, on their write-up, is all about Kelsey Mitchell, who scored 27, who never met a shot that she didn't like, by the way. She becomes the 5th player in WNBA history to score at least 25 in 6 consecutive games. Hell of a player, but it's her team. It's her team. They don't even mention Clark. It shows you once again why I said this when I said it. Why I kept hammering home this point. Why it doesn't matter what sport you follow. When you have something good, when you have something great, you placate it, you cultivate it, you massage it, you stroke it, you turn around and you make it feel good. You make it feel like it's cared for, like it's loved, like it's actually appreciated. And they're doing absolutely none of that. Absolutely none of that for Caitlin Clark. And it hit me last night. It hit me last night. She's going to get traded. It just makes too much sense. She's going to get traded. And I'm so glad she's getting chippy and angry and frustrated. I don't like it because it's starting to get to her, right? I don't like it at all. But let's just call it for what it is. They've broken her. They have broken her. And the only thing that's going to help is a change of scenery. And now you can go to a franchise that you know is rebuilding, a franchise that is in flux, a franchise that actually has owners that respect the hell out of you as a player, and you've got some ties. And you have some ties. Now, the flip side as we dive into this on this Lunes Manolo Mencioso Locador de Radio Man Up edition of On Cue, Rich Quinones here, the more we dive into this, there's also the other elephant in the room. Because Indiana had a really nice win last night, and you talk about the production, the balance, attack, the scoring, the spacing on the floor, and they've got depth. So now it's like, well, hold on a second. They were 10-8. They're 14-9. They won 4 out of their last 5. Restricted minutes, 20 plus, starting to get in a rhythm and a groove. We won't see them again until Wednesday against Golden State, then Seattle, then New York. They can win some games here. I mean, it's crazy to think how all their games are on television. USA, Ion, CBS, USA, Ion, ABC, Prime, ABC, ESPN, Caitlin Clark effect. But the sabotage, the exploitation, I believe it ends in a couple weeks. I believe she's going to get traded. I believe she's going to get moved. I believe there's workings on right now, inner workings, that the Sparks know. They know she's pissed off. They know she's miserable. They know she's not happy where she's at. So they can swoop in and they can be the savior. They can swoop in and they can rescue her from the abyss. Because usually that's what happens. I mean, think about this, right? When you're dealing with marquee players and you are dealing with great players who are starting to get a little frustrated, who believe that they are being overlooked, undervalued, you start to see the body language. It starts to speak. And I'm a big believer in body language. I am a big believer in body language. Yes, I don't know what you're thinking, but I can kind of surmise. And the frustration with her after fouls, which, by the way, this is a league issue. This is a league issue in the WNBA. I'm telling you, man, this is just ridiculous because the league itself, every freaking player bitches after a foul. Oh, my God. It's like every time, touchy, ticky-tack, they go off. They go off. But if you watched the game last night, you saw that even again, this is why I think, as crazy as it sounds, I know you guys are going to hammer me. You guys are going to jump on me. You guys are going to troll me. Fire away, troll away, let's go. As crazy as it sounds, in limited minutes, the 12 points, the 7 rebounds, the 6 assists, right? The offense is kind of orchestrated, not around her, but around Kelsey Mitchell. And yeah, you got a little bit of the depth. You walk away saying, man, they're such a really good team. And I'm not going to suggest they don't need Caitlin Clark. They do, but they can win games like this. It proves my point even more. It proves my point even more. Then use her as that chip. Because what they're trying to do is diminish her as a true, legit floor general. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're taking her away from doing what she does best, which goes to the sabotage, which goes to the limiting shots, production, which affects the bottom line. Now, you get to win, which is a great thing. But it's really hard when star players, great players, they're not getting their own. They're not getting their own. Listen, great win last night. Great win. But you kind of also see defensively they still got lapses, and Mitchell was in la-la land. So everyone gets on, Caitlin Clark, she's a matador on defense. She's not the weak link on defense. Mitchell, who scores, doesn't run the floor. She doesn't. She doesn't run the floor. She really doesn't. You're talking about transitional defense. You needed to win in this league. You needed to win on any level. On any level. But the fact, again, that the minutes restrictions, and it's amazing, too. She's the fastest player in league history to record 600 assists, but she's friggin' turned around. She's dismissed and marginalized by her own coach. I mean, the woke league, it's utterly ridiculous. ESPN has Mitchell the second bar. They don't even acknowledge this record, which tells you everything you need to know. It's time. It's absolutely time. Start pressing back. Start pushing back. Now is the time to speak up. Now is the time to basically upset the friggin' apple cart. Upset the apple cart right now. That was a blowout win last night. Yeah, you got the win. It's always great to get a win. 600 career assists, fastest in WNBA history. 72 games, shatters the record. Not even a blimp. Nothing. If you are the Sparks, you're watching this. You're monitoring this, and you're saying to yourself, hey, hold on a second. We can build now. We can build with a sustainable, competitive core. And we've seen young, great players get traded before. This is nothing new. We've seen it. Now, the ramifications might be deadly for the Fever. They might be deadly. I'm telling you right now, they might be deadly. Because of the markability and everything that comes with that. But I also believe to some extent, they are digging their own grave. They're digging their own grave. And they know it, but they don't care. They don't give a shit. The GM doesn't care. The head coach doesn't care. They're going to continue down this path. We see it in the NBA. We see it in the NFL. We're seeing it in the WNBA. We see it all the time. You start to spite that great player. You start to suck out, the livelihood, the passion out of the great player. You try to fit, as I keep harping on it, that square peg in that round hole. It's not working. You can't tell me on any other team, in any other league, in any other atmosphere, in any other lifetime that she's not the true legit floor general. That's me like taking the basketball out of John Stockton's hands or Isaiah Thomas's hands or Maravich's hands or Jerry West's hands. You're the second primary ball handler on the floor. Are you kidding me? But that's exactly what they're doing. And I'm telling you, teams are monitoring this. They're watching what's going on. They want the minutes to become restricted. They want other players to step up to show they have depth because it diminishes her talent, her value, even though we know what her value is. So other teams think, well, hold on, do I have to potentially give up a king's ransom? Now, you're probably going to have to. But when it's all said and done, you got to take advantage of it. I believe she's going to be traded. I believe she's on the move, and I think this is the best thing for her, the league, and the Indiana Fever. And it's going to be a great thing if she lands with the Sparks. Because, again, you can slice it and dice it any way you want. It's so obvious. I mean, she's draining a couple threes, step back, crossover, and you're like, here we go. She's getting her minutes. Then she has a turnover. And then she got the elbow on the chest. And all, the announcers are just so biased. It's utterly ridiculous. I don't want to hear from them anymore. It just makes sense. It really does. It makes sense. Because if you look at that Sparks team, they're getting older. And they have some expiring contracts. Like, I feel as though Indiana is a franchise right now in the W, and I'm trying to equate it to another franchise in other sports that they know they've got the player by the you-know-what. Now, I still believe there's some leverage to be involved with Caitlin Clark because if she does decide to just pick her ball up and go home and leave the WNBA, go overseas, whatever, she's screwing Indiana, and rightfully so. But they also have manufactured it and created this narrative where, you know what? We've got her under our thumb, and that's a shitty place to be. It really is. You can't tell me, you can't have her. Listen, I didn't see design plays last night. I saw her maybe cut once to the basket for a nice driving layup on a really nice assist. But this front office it's a joke. It's an embarrassment. It's almost as though we're going to keep doing this just to spite. She's not a 36, 37, 38-year-old vet. She's not on her last legs. She's got fresh legs. She's a young kid. The minutes restriction crap, enough. But if you're going to go down that path, and if I'm another team and I'm LA, I'm picking up the phone and I'm making a call right now before the trade deadline August 2nd. I'm doing it. I'm absolutely doing it. You would be foolish not to. What do you guys think? Let me open up. DB chimes in. Whew, made it. Yeah, well, you know what? We fired off at 2:45 because we're going for a while today, DB. Because, again, there's so much happened over the weekend, right? I mean, we talked a little bit about the World Cup. You got Major League All-Star game on Tuesday. I don't even know if anyone's going to watch the Home Run Derby, which has kind of lost its luster. And then, obviously, you got everything with the LeBron watch and the NBA. And we have the drama that is Caitlin Clark in the woke WNBA, which, beyond the way, is just absolutely, it's becoming, the more I listen to some of these broadcasters call these games, the more you can tell the disdain. They have absolutely hatred and disdain for this kid. Things in the WNBA will now be even worse if she leaves. The players that hated her will feel more empowerment. Let them. And then when their salaries dip and there's no sustainability or consistency or continuity, guess what? Then they're not going to be playing anymore. Right? Carlos chimes in. Man, the Fever beat the Sonic Rings out of the Aces last night. Carlos, I just want you to know something. I want you to know something. I was thinking about you, not because I had cereal, because I told you the other day I don't eat cereal. I was thinking of you because I poured the cream into the coffee. I poured the cream into my coffee cup first. Now, according to you, that's psychotic behavior, because you said if you put what did you say? Milk in first, then the cereal. Or cereal first and milk. I don't know what the hell it was, but it's psychotic behavior. So I'm telling you right now, I displayed it. I displayed that kind of behavior. I'm just letting you know. WNBA may personally have the worst refs in the sports. They're horrible. The league as a whole, the refereeing stinks. It stinks. And I'm telling you this. If you watch enough, then you got to sit there and say, how are you not utilizing your best talents? And that's the one problem I have. Like, when you watch basketball on any level, and again, for those that are just tuning in, you know, you guys might not be aware, I call a lot of basketball. I call leagues in the States and overseas. So I know the game. I follow the game. I cover the game. I report on I know the game of basketball. And what I see is a coach that has basically phased her out. Now, you guys can come at me all you want with the team sport, but then, you know, I can also counter with players that chuck it, because the reality is players also want to get theirs. That is the reality. You know, you look at the NBA, James Harden never met a shot he didn't like. LeBron never met a shot. Even at disadvantaged age, LeBron still wants to bring the ball up the floor. Embiid's still jacking threes at his size. Like, so you can throw the team sport aspect, and I understand you have to win. But the problem is Caitlin Clark doesn't fit the offense that they're trying to run. In the NBA, the Knicks were so good. We knew it centered around Jalen Brunson. And obviously, Kat was the big man, and they worked around that with the role players. I'm not seeing this in this league, and I'm certainly not seeing it with Indiana. So you can see the balance that you saw last night. And typically when there's a game that's a blowout of 16, 17, 20 points, then guess what? In trash time, garbage time, you know, guys and girls are going to get theirs. Indiana scored 29 last night in the fourth. They held the Aces to 11 points. You knew it was going to be a blowout. So people were stat piling the sheet, right? Cunningham was getting her 20. Mitchell had the 27. Boston had 19. Really good player. You know, Billings had what? 10, 11 points. Shot a couple of, I think, one or two threes, got to line. And then Clark does what she does. But it's becoming increasingly evident that the offense centers and caters around KM. And you can't tell me that there's other guards on the floor that are better at distributing or facilitating than Caitlin Clark. They're not. So now you're leaving her away from the ball. Hence the cut. She's got to be able bring the ball up, create, because she's drawing that double. And then even when she's getting those screens in the pick and roll, she's still able to knock down her shots. But they're not willing to do that. They're not doing it consistently. And that's why I think sometimes the offense struggles and it puts more pressure on the defense. And we saw the defense over the last 5, 6, 7 games prior to last night. They were giving up 100 points. They were a bad defensive team. Now, that's a hell of a win last night, but it almost magnifies the problem and the issue because you can't keep minutes restrictions. She is an all-time great already at this young age. She is. You can't deny it. You can't dispute it. Why are you not cultivating that? Why are you not embracing that? Because the head coach has her head up her ass and she refuses to. She just doesn't want to do it. So to me, you want to call it sabotage, spite, manipulation, call it whatever you want. She's got value right now. Move her. Because you're going to get a king's ransom back. You're going to get an absolute king's ransom back for her. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. And if you are LA, I'm picking up the phone and I'm figuring out, all right, let's do it. What do we need to do? And I'm going to tell you why in a second. I like this handle, by the way. I don't have to trade it. Truth, 8716. Appreciate it. Basketball is a team sport. How does the team have a started player? When the blowout, the defending champs in Vegas, from a talent perspective, Clarkson, Mark Price of the WNBA. Not a bad thing. Mark Price, a hell of a player. You can't go by one, and I appreciate the comment. Thank you. And the engagement. You can't go by one game. It's been a pattern. Come on. It's been an absolute pattern of sabotage. It's been an absolute pattern. You can go back and look at so many different plays and the offense, they're not running around her when she's on the floor. And you're thinking to yourself, why are they not running offensive sets? Why are they not getting her in motion? Why are they not letting her create? You know, when she was, quote, dealing with the minutes restriction, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5 minutes, whatever the hell it was, people were killing her for scoring 9 points. Her longest stretch was 3 minutes on the floor. I can't really get hot. And then when she hits a couple threes, she gets pulled. When she has a turnover, she gets pulled. It just makes no sense. And there's a reason she's kind of been off injured a little bit here and there, or parts of 47 games. She's had to sit down in foul trouble because of the way they defend her, so she picks up bad ticky-tack fouls. But she's the most fouled player in the league, so the wear and tear. And the other thing is the head coach has never once, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, challenged a single foul call against Caitlin Clark. No 50-50 challenge. None. To me, again, for manipulation, control, sabotage. If you can't see it, you don't even have to be a fan of hers. You can be a hater of hers. You can insert your great player in that scenario with that GM and that coach. You would say the same thing. You're not utilizing her talents. Are you going to tell me you're reducing her to what? Second fiddle? You know, the second ball handler? You know, the backup guard? That's how they're treating her. The backup guard, really? All the records she's broken, i.e. fastest player to 600 assists, which everyone glossed over, especially the rat ship. Not even making an acknowledgement of it. I'm not saying build a statue for her. What I'm saying is if you are the Sparks and you are their ownership group, and we know Magic Johnson is co-owner of the Sparks, right? He's part of the Sparks LA Sports ownership group. You got the controlling owner, Mark Walter. You got a couple partners in there, Billie Jean King. You got Bobby Panton. You got Stan Kaskin. Okay, Magic Johnson has a lot of clout. Magic Johnson loves Caitlin Clark's game. Loves compares Caitlin Clark to Bird. Like, so, you know, for those that are like, you're crazy, Q, it's never going to happen. Magic Johnson walks in that room and he's giving them a little intel. He's giving them some information. He's giving them suggestions, critiques. And when you're a team in that market and you bring in that markability and branding and that face and that talent for a team that I think right now is somewhat in rebuilding, and it's one of the reasons they fired the GM. Now, they've had issues with the roster construction. We can go over that, you know, all over the place. But you bring in a player and you're going to hit revenue benchmarks like that. You're going to put more fannies in the seats. So you trade Jackson to Chicago. She went off the other night, right? Plum's 31. She's injured. She's on an expiring contract. Nika O is 36. Burrell is 26. She's not the type of guard and playmaker that Cece is, right? and you have a couple older. Now, she's got a good relationship, obviously, with Brink. She's 26, right? She was out last night. Hamby, I think, is a 32, 33-year-old forward. So you've got pieces to play with. You got expiring contracts, and you can bring over a player and just let her go. That Showtime Magic, those Showtime Lakers teams. It just makes sense. The problem is, at the end of the day, you know who's going to kibosh it? You know who's going to screw it? You know who's not going to sign off on it? The friggin' Fever front office. That's why I'm so pissed off today. I want this girl to be free. Let her go. And I'm not suggesting LA would be 1,000 times better. I think ultimately, and I want to hear from you guys and girls, I believe ultimately there's no place for her as a whole to succeed in this league. It's going to be treatment, the same treatment or certain treatment and prejudice and just the toxicity of how she's handled and covered by the media and within the league. It's going to follow her throughout the course of her career. That's why several weeks ago, what did I say? I said, turn around, create that CCL league, man. Turn around, get the hell out of there. I believe the WNBA, they've got such a thumb with their inclusion and their friggin' wokeness that they won't ever allow a player like Caitlin Clark to really not only hit that ceiling, but go through the roof. They just won't. They just won't. They just, I told you, they don't want her in the league. It's clear, it's evident, it's obvious. You don't need someone to hold your hand and walk you through it. They will not acknowledge this kid. They will not give her just due, the respect she deserves. That's why the haters come out in full force and the trolls and sit there and say she bitches, whines, and complains. Like every other player in the league, when they get touched or there's a foul, they all complain. They all do. But it's magnified when she does it. You know what that is? All of a sudden now frustration is starting to seep through. She's starting to get pissed off. She's starting to get frustrated, and she's not playing her game because she's not allowed to play her game. She's not imagine you're at work. You got hired to do a job, and yet you're talented enough, but they're still not giving you the proper tools to do what you need to do. You can do it. You can figure it out. But they refuse to give you the tools. They refuse to give you the training. They refuse to put you in the best situation to succeed. That's exactly what this organization is doing, and to some extent the league. That is a problem. That is a problem. And I don't understand why nobody, and I think, well, some of you are very educated, and you see it. And it's, you can be a hater, you can be a critic, you can be a naysayer, you can be negative, whatever it is. However you want to come at her, that's fine. This is not pro, because listen, I told you, when she gets frustrated, she picks up ticky-tack fouls like a lot of players do. You know, she had a couple bad turnovers last night, but I also believe it's starting to weigh on her. And when you're a young player and you're impressionable and things aren't going your way, where things always pretty much go your way, when you're put in the right position to succeed and now you're not, you get very frustrated. Mentally, you have lapses. You start to lose a little bit of confidence. You start to get paranoid. I see it calling games. I see when some of these players are playing and they have a couple turnovers and they look right to the bench right away to see if they're going to get subbed out. I mean, it's prevalent overseas when I call these games. Some of these guys, because the style of play is different. The ball really touches the floor, but they're more, you know, overseas, you get guys, a lot of American players that can really shoot the rock. But they also become very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not iso ball, but very selfish at times. You know, a couple shots will go down and they think they're hot, and then they'll miss the next three and they'll continue to shoot. Now, you understand why they're going to get pulled. But sometimes you get these players, they come off the bench, they knock down a couple, which is great for confidence, and then they have that one lapse, that one defensive lapse, that one turnover, they didn't make the right basketball play, and the coach doesn't allow them to play through it. And they start going around, they start looking, they get paranoid, and they lose confidence. Now, when they're back on the floor after they got benched, they start thinking. You guys know this, you played the game. And I think at times, this is what she's doing. You saw her. As soon as there's a foul, as soon as there's a turnover, she glances over because she thinks she's going to get pulled by Stephanie White. That's a horrible way to play, man. That's a horrible way to play. Look, the team has depth and it has talent, and they showed you last night they can compete with the big boys because they throttled the Aces last night. I mean, they did from the jump. They throttled them. They took control of that game, and then they put them away late in the third, and then they ran away with it in the fourth. They ran away with it in the fourth. And they had one of those nights where they got to the line, and they shot really good from beyond the arc, and they shot exceptional from the perimeter. It's a make or miss league. The WNBA, college, I don't care. But they're not utilizing her best asset, her skill set, right? The floor general, the court vision, the acumen, the IQ. They're just not allowing it because they want to run their offense in a certain fashion that's not predicated towards her game. And it's very hard for me to sit there and say, well, she needs to refine her game. That's like sitting there going to the NFL, right? And you get a quarterback that goes through 2 or 3 different offensive coordinators. Well, if you know the quarterback's strength is his God-given talent, his athleticism, right? You can run that RPO. He can break, he can pick up 6 on 3rd and 13, or 3rd and 5, pick up 13 yards and keep the drive alive. He likes tight ends over the middle. He likes to see, you kind of build the offense around that. And if you want to start with the ground game to open things up, that's great. But it's very hard to sit there, especially with young players that are still somewhat raw and impressionable. You got to stand back there and sit in the pocket. And maybe that's not who he is. Maybe you see the year number 2 progression. That's why in the NFL, we always look at a young quarterback, rookie, get your feet wet. And what do you hear the pundits say? Year number 2, the game will what? It will slow down for him. Well, she doesn't need the game to slow down. She needs her coach to build the offense around her when she's on the floor. And she's still going to facilitate and get the ball in the right scorer's hands. I have no doubt. But she can also score. She can facilitate, dish, and score. She can create off the dribble, and she moves around. You can't play her like she's a hobbled, banged-up 35-year-old vet. You can't. Hoping to milk the last several years. You just can't do that. And that's what they're doing. And it's one of the reasons I think right now, if you're a team like LA, you're on the phone. You want to make it happen. You want to get her the hell out of there while she's still engaged. Because the longer this festers and lingers, she's going to get more frustrated. She's going to pick up more ticky-tack fouls. She's going to start forcing her shots. And it's going to look like she can't play anymore. And then you're going to have the talking heads on the rat ship come out and sit there and say, well, see, you frustrate her, you lock her up. This is what happens. She's really not that good. No. She is a product of her environment. That's a problem. That is a problem. The coach is clueless. Clueless. Lewis chimes in. Appreciate that. I hope you're right, my brother. Her coach's management or evil. Never seen a more hateful, racist league. Her own coaches, Kiki, Kayete, coaches stifle her stats. She's the best player in the world. But people don't want to see that. People don't want to acknowledge that. See, the dog's getting fired up as well. Dog's getting a little fired up on a Man Up Monday as well. I don't like the league for this reason. It's inclusive. It's inclusive. And they're prejudiced against her. And I think they're prejudiced against other players. And if you don't look the part, act the part, play the part, sound the part, walk the part, this is what you get. And I think it's Bush League. I do. I really do. And maybe I live in fantasy world. I don't know. But I think it's utterly ridiculous because she's too damn good of a player. And for those that always chime in at me and, we talk about stats. I'm going to get to the comments, so just bear with me for a moment. Stats are stats. Stats do speak volumes. But where I think a lot of people don't like where the conversation goes sometimes is when you talk about the impact that a player has. The impact that she has, again, revenue, ratings, eyeballs, marketing, branding. For the life of me, I don't understand. Please, is it me? Explain this to me. I want to hear from you guys. Is it me or is this purposely done? Do you believe what's transpiring right now is just purposely done? Do you believe that the front office, the GM, and the head coach are purposely doing this to her? And if they are, why? Because it makes no sense. I'm not saying she needs to go out there and score 35 a night and have triple doubles, which she almost had last night. And I'm not saying that the coach needs to run every single solitary play around her. I'm not suggesting that either. But if you watch enough basketball, you see where are the, again, pick and roll, cutting to the basket, having her play off the ball. She's got to create on her own without the basketball. Now, I understand every player, you got to move around. It's all about motion on the floor. But I don't even see any ISO. I see half-ass screens sometimes. I really do. I just do. I do. That's just me. Daniel chimes in, Q, you're spot on. They're going to grade her as much as possible. This is going to come down to Cece and if she wants to continue being a doormat. I said it 2 weeks ago. Any player right now with that skill set and talent and that value and worth, you have to call them out. I understand if it's not your nature, and some players and people in this world, they will always say the right thing. They will always say the right thing. Sometimes you got to say the wrong thing. G-Dog chimes in, Q spot on, as if it wasn't bad last night. She had maybe 10 more minutes to play. She would have had that triple-double. They won't allow her to get those numbers. She's not a backup point guard. It's like when I watch my Knicks. And I love Jalen Brunson. And he used to frustrate the hell out of me because I'm like, make the right basketball play or be aggressive or be unselfish. But we know who Jalen Brunson is. He's a fantastic scorer. He can create anywhere on the floor. And he can go off at any moment. And he has stretches where he can score 15, 16, 17 points. I give you the playoffs, the NBA Finals, first title since 73, 50-year drought over. I can die in peace. But the Knicks build the offense around that. Plus, they have role players that understand all their roles. So there's confidence on the floor. If my shot's not falling, I'm going right to the basket. If my shot's not falling, let me get others involved. You know what? Landry hit down a couple threes. He's got the hot hand. Okay, Hart takes it. He's an alpha. Takes it right to the basket. He's got the hot hand. Hey, Cat down on the low post. He's got the hot hand. I watch these games, especially in this league. It does become selfish iso ball. But I watched last night. Mitchell, she is a scorer. But I think sometimes she's a little too selfish. And that's okay. That's okay. There's not sustainability in that regard. It's not going to last, especially when you have the best player on the floor only playing 15 to 20 minutes in spurts. How the hell do you get in any type of rhythm? She is a volume shooter. She's a volume shooter. She needs her touches. She needs her shot. So again, if it's not going to work there, if it's not going to be the right fit, and by an organization has the right to build a team the way they want to build a team, but this is ass backwards. Ass backwards. It makes no sense. The head coach, again, you see it. It is clear favoritism, which happens on every level, from Pop Warner to AAU to flag friggin' football to high school to JUCO to college to the pros. There's beyond select bias, select favoritism, selective memory, recency bias, you name it, it's all friggin' there. This is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's very hard to flourish when someone has their thumb on you. That's all. It's all true, but the best plays and coach for her, Sandy in Toronto. It might be the case. It might be the case. You know, it's funny. Someone mentioned the Stockholm Syndrome last week. It's funny you mentioned that, where you're almost like the victim and you... I believe that's a psychotic behavior, like a form of manipulation. Don't get me started, because I have my thoughts on the commissioner, who's another jackass clown. But this head coach, she's not going to go anywhere, Lou. She's not. She's not going anywhere. She is... There are very good players in this league. I've said it time and time. Mitchell is a very good player. Okay? There's talent in this league. We're not going to deny it. There's talent in the league, right? I mean, Wilson is a phenomenal player. Mitchell is a great player. Buckets is a great player. Stewart is a great. There's talent. When you have talent, you embrace it. You work with it. You figure out a way to make it work. You want everything to be, as someone pointed out, as you guys pointed out, the team game, the moving parts. So you're going to have a game where maybe she is only, 3 of 4 in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. She's knocking down her shots. But did you do everything in your power to really get said player involved in the offense? And I think collectively the answer is no. And that's why I keep hearkening back to, if you are the Sparks, you've got, again, the anchor, right? I mean, you just turn around, Jackson is a beast. But, CB looks like she's regarded as one of the faces of the franchise. Plum is older, injured, and an expiring contract. This makes noise. This makes substantial amount of noise. You are basically raising the bar. You're basically turning around and you're saying, we're all in, man. We've got our future player. And oh, by the way, Magic loves her. Point guard to point guard. Floor general to floor general. It makes too much sense. Now, you're going to give up a boatload. I think we all know that. But don't you want a player that's got the court vision, the passing ability? I mean, she's averaging over 8 assists. So now all of a sudden you pair her up. Oh my God, the compliment. That's perfect. That's wonderful. It's fantastic basketball to watch. It would be. Sometimes there's too much ISO. There's too much. Folks, the shot selection in this league, sometimes I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it is a selfish brand of basketball. Let's just call it for what it is. Ingrid chimes in, QGCAB throwing the elbow into someone she's called elbows and dirty. Chelsea Gray does it. It's just basketball. It's been a problem. It's been a problem. Mick chimes in, Q. Let's be honest, man. She's not that good, and she was flipping and flopping last night. Well, do you watch the games? Did you watch her in college? Did you watch her in the pros? She's getting frustrated. She's getting frustrated. That's all. And any great player that's not getting theirs or feels that they're not really part of the offense or the team or the scheme or helping them win, this is what you get. But I started off the show, and my sentiment doesn't change. She's got to get traded. She's got to get traded. Like, they have to move her, or she's never going to succeed in this league. And, what bothers me, too, is the power, right? Because we're getting deep into the season, playoffs right around the corner, trade deadline right there. The owner's not going to do it. And I think it would really hurt the fan base. And I equated it to, I drew the parallel, if you follow, like Premier League, if you follow soccer in other countries, yeah, you get pissed when they leave the team, but you follow the player. I believe Caitlin Clark is one of the exceptions to the rule. I believe she's the type of player, wherever she goes, fans will follow. And I know she wants to win. She's competitive. And I know she likes where she's at because she likes her teammates, you would think. And she loves playing for the fans. But the organization is doing her dirty. The organization is doing her absolutely dirty. I mean, anyone can see it, man. She isn't going to leave the Fever this year. She's loyal for them, wants to win a championship with them. She likes Indianapolis. Her boyfriend lives there. All that might be true. It might be true, Anth. But boyfriends also leave with girlfriends. And she loves the fans, of course. She loves being part of Indiana, the Indiana Fever. No one's disputing or denying that. But you can't tell me, if you were to give her truth serum right now and you said, Caitlin, I got an out for you. I got an out. It's going to sting. It might hurt. You got to say goodbye to some really close, tight relationships. But, man, LA wants you. LA wants you. I mean, now you're talking about going from a market in Indiana to Los Angeles. I mean, what does that do for her value, her branding, her markability, dollars and cents? It skyrockets. It skyrockets. It goes through the roof. Magic Johnson is salivating. He is watching this right now. I'm telling you. And the fact that they just got rid of the GM, It almost makes too much sense. But to what a lot of you guys are saying and girls are saying, you don't think Indiana is going to do it. And of course, why would they? Now let's go to that for a second. Like, what would be the upside of Indiana trading Caitlin Clark? And there's that pregnant pause, right? Like, we talk about the upside. So you are losing a player that has done what? Bring in a lot of eyeballs, a lot of merchandise, a lot of revenue, inspire a young, new generation of fans. Community, here we go. Evaluation of the franchise, valuation jumps up. You're trying to build a championship contender. Do you realize when everyone trolls at me and says, she sucks, she stinks, she's got no value? Okay. In this country, corporate America, because everything is measured by what? Since they drafted her, since Indiana drafted her, their value has gone from 90 million to 560 million. That's why they'll never trade her. But yet they're going to continue to dick around. They're going to continue to dick her around. You got a player that's averaging 22 and 8, and she's supposed to be the primary playmaker, the offensive cog, and we're doing minutes restrictions. We're not creating for her. Come on, man, that's a crock. Then that coach is the worst head coach in the history of basketball. And we already saw, the other thing is the reason that Stephanie White always gets the friggin' pass by the rat shit, by ESPN and all these other pundits, is because she played at Purdue. She won at Purdue. She was horrible at Vanderbilt. She couldn't win in the conference. She couldn't win at all. Players were dropping off like friggin' flies. They were dropping off like 8, 9, 10 players. You're talking about starters that said, we don't even want to deal with her anymore. But yet, she worked for ESPN. She called games for ESPN and ABC. She was a color analyst. So again, she's got the body of work. She's got the equity in the bank. That's why they're never going to really rip her or criticize her. But any fool can see what the hell's going on. I mean, I think, to me, I call it sabotage and you guys don't. And that's okay. But can we all agree the team is built on Kelsey Mitchell? That's the offensive mindset. It's basketball 101. I've seen it 1,000 times. It's basketball 101. But I also believe it's a form of sabotage. Because if that's the case, move her. You cannot limit her, restrict her minutes, and have her coming off the bench like that and not being the primary ball handler and having other guards on the floor. Why? Because they're more willing right away to give the ball to Mitchell? Then move her. It's not even about what's plausible or what's not. I use the word sabotage. People don't like it. I use the word manipulation. People don't like it. Maybe it's too raw. Maybe it's too harsh. But the eye test tells me what I already know. They're screwing her. And it goes back to the head coach, because the head coach has it in her mind how she wants to construct the offense. So anyone can see it's a bad fit. It's a bad fit. So you're going to get it to the point where she's broken and she's not even engaged. And then it looks like a piss poor product on the floor. And you guys are going to sit there and say, oh my God, she only had 8 points and 6 turnovers. Yeah, because she was frustrated. She's trying to do too much. She's taking on herself. Why? Because she's got this fear of being benched, or the critics, or the talking heads out there, or the jackasses like myself talking about it, criticizing her, maybe giving her too much respect and accolades, maybe being too harsh on her. And I've been critical of Caitlin Clark, but I'm also fair and reasonable. And what I'm seeing right now, it makes no sense. There's no explanation to it, except this coach somewhere along the way said, we can't build around her. Well, okay. Then if you drafted her, then you shouldn't have had this head coach in place. And if that's the case, do you want to build around the franchise player? Then you're going to have to fire the head coach. But we already see the GM and the head coach are in cahoots. They have a good relationship. So Stephanie White's not going anywhere. So that only leaves one more option. Trade Caitlin Clark. It's not rocket science, folks. It's not that hard. And sometimes the hardest decisions you have to make are the ones that will help you in the long term. And that's, again, if I want her on the floor, and if I don't mesh with another player, then something's got to be sacrificed. Does that make sense? Right? Caitlin, Kelsey don't play well together. Kelsey second fiddle to Caitlin after Kelsey got them in the playoffs last year with the max contract. Yeah, but again, but you're making my point. And you're making my point. You're justifying my point. So this offense now, it's Kelsey Mitchell's team. The coach loves her. The coach's going to go to bat for her. The coach's going to go to battle for her. So you're making my point, my friend. So we can argue who's the best player on the floor, but we can't argue whose team it is right now. The offense, anytime you watch, and again, any league, man, you know where offenses are run. You know the primary ball handler. You know the primary scorer on the floor. I don't care what level. You go to the NBA, it's one of the reasons, look, LeBron can come out and say anything he wants about, he's going to take his talent somewhere else. He's not coming back to the Lakers. Everyone knows it was the worst kept secret. The Lakers wanted nothing to do with LeBron anymore. They didn't. It's not LeBron's team, and it hasn't been. It's Luka's team. They were not going to create an offense around a 40-something-year-old LeBron James, who's a defensive liability, who's got a suspect handle at this age, can still produce and can contribute. So they were like, hey, man, you make our decision that much more easier. That's all that was. I'm getting ready to break up with you. Well, hey, man, she's getting ready to break up. I'm not going to give her the shot. I'm not going to give her the chance. That's all that was. So take it to this example. Take it to this instance right now. With this franchise in this league, if, as you guys say, they're building around Mitchell, you can't have Mitchell and Clark on the floor at the same time because it takes away from Mitchell, or they're trying to one-up each other. Or maybe Clark's not looking at Mitchell for that first option, right? Which, you saw that a couple times in the past. So then that causes what? It causes friction. So now you got Cam, you got Mitchell going to the coach who already doesn't like Caitlin Clark. And now I'm almost like, I'm kind of placating for myself. I'm kind of pushing for myself. Does that make sense? That offense got to run through me. She's not seeing me. She's not finding me. These are wide open looks. I saw she had a couple passes. I mean, they couldn't even gather these passes in transition. Now, one of them was a little too high, and that's on her. That was a bad turnover. One got tipped away. But I've seen enough where they can't even corral some of these passes. They're not even looking for it. They're not even engaged half the time. That is a problem. And that falls on the coach. But the coaches we've seen does not want to be held accountable for anything. As long as they keep winning, and they're winning like this, then, someone's going to sit there up top and say, well, I like what Stephanie White's doing. Look at what she's doing right now. The bounce on the floor. Caitlin's a little banged up, the back, the tweaking. She gets in foul trouble. We can space her out 15, 20 minutes. There's no world where she should be playing 15, 20 minutes a night, where she should not be the primary ball handler, where she should not be bringing the ball up the floor. It's just my opinion. That's all. And you guys can wholeheartedly disagree with me. And, I understand great players, some of them lack in certain areas, right? So we can talk about assist to turnover, the plus minus, which I think at times is an overblown stat, just my opinion. You can talk about the laps in the defenses, but ultimately, if your primary ball handler, your facilitator, your number one option, or number two to get the ball to number one, and you're scoring, and you guys, again, think about it, right? So now I don't have to settle. So a lot of times what happens, right? As soon as I start to penetrate and dish and kick, you already got people drifting back. So you don't, some turnovers in your own end you can kind of live with, as opposed to you're bringing up the ball at the floor and all of a sudden it's going back the other way. You're giving up two. Like, I've seen her do that at times. So there's a bad turnover you can kind of live with. But my point is, you can have this offense work from the perimeter where she's shooting her shots, where other players are shooting their shots, as long as everyone's getting back on defense. The smart teams, they know once that three is up, you're going to have one or two crash the boards, everyone else drip back. I don't see that a lot in this league. I think as a whole, defense, there's not a lot of defense at times in this league, and their last 5 out of 6, they were giving up 100 points. Now, you want to go back, you want to talk about not having a rim protector, you want to talk about not having a presence in the middle, we can certainly talk about that, because we saw that. We saw that against a very bad LA team. No rim protector, none whatsoever. And the Sparks, a couple games ago, when they beat them by 14, they were able to basically just eat them up in the paint. Eat them up in the paint because they had no rim protector. So it all goes hand in hand. And like I said, where I started this with the trade deadline right around the corner, and I keep throwing it out, and some of you guys have answers and some don't. Like, what's the benefit right now? Obviously, the financial, the fans, the merchandise, everything, which is huge. But if you are going to utilize her in this fashion, and you're going to prevent her from really opening up a ton of offensive opportunities on the floor for everyone else to get theirs, and you're not utilizing her the right way, and you're treating her like she's a 36-year-old backup point guard, why not trade her? So to me, it goes back to spite. It goes back to on purpose. It goes back to exactly, again, what she's doing, what the coaching staff is doing. So, and I appreciate everyone's got opinions, man. And I know a lot of other channels and shows talk hoops, talk WNBA, and I'm sure they do a fantastic job. I'm old school, man. I can break down the film. I call enough games. I speak to enough players. I speak to enough coaches in different leagues and organizations, stateside, overseas. They always tell me at the end of the day, Rich, it's the friggin' eye test. It's the eye test. And the eye test tells me that this coach is screwing her on purpose so she doesn't get hers. They do not want this kid to have flowers. They do not want her to get her shine. They do not want her to break records. They don't. Sometimes you don't need to sit there and go to the whiteboard and come up with all these formulas and break everything down. All you need to do is just say, yo, man, they're screwing her. That's the eye test. Watch how it plays out. Watch how it plays out. You watch the NFL, contracts are incentive-laced. It's week 16. I got 950 rushing yards. You know, we're up by 25. I'm sitting at 35, and the coach pulls me in the fourth quarter, so I don't hit my incentive, so I don't have to pay me. It's a politics. It's a business of sports. I mean, that's screwing me. But they do that in the NFL. They do that. They're doing it to her. The league doesn't want her to break records. And she's breaking records in spite of what the league's doing. That's why I said this 2-3 weeks ago, man. I really wish she can just take the ball and say, to hell with this. Create an O-League. Go overseas. She'll be treated like a queen. You know, you get financing. You get some of these former players to come in. And you do it your way because this ain't working. But she loves playing in the WNBA. She loves playing, obviously, in Indiana. She loves the sport of basketball. But I don't think she likes what's going on. I don't think she loves how she's being treated. She's young. She's got to answer a lot of questions. Young players, when you're talented, the microscope is always, you're always under the microscope. There's a lot of scrutiny. So as I respect a lot of you guys chiming in with your explanations and the offense, I believe that's true. I believe that's true. I believe it's catered towards Mitchell. It's catered towards other players, right? First options. It's not catered, built, centered around her. But the eye test shows me she's being treated like she's a second-rate 35-year-old journeyman point guard at times. And that's because the coach wants it that way. Now, I'm not trying to force my opinion on anyone. You guys see it differently, you're entitled to that. You're entitled to that. By the Shore says, eye test is the most credible evidence of what Stephanie is doing to diminish Caitlin's game. Let me see. I said I don't follow that channel, so I'm sorry. I'll have to check it out though. Hey man, I'm all for, like I said, I love watching some of these different shows because I'm kind of whatever. Uncle Joe says can talk hoops about because he gets paid to, but that doesn't mean he knows hoops. Yeah. I like to think I know a little bit of basketball, but you're right about that. I see it. You know, I've covered this sport. I followed the sport for a very, very, very long time, and maybe, you know, overseas a little different because there's a lot more politics involved overseas. You know, you're an American player overseas. As soon as you get off the plane, every player is going to tell you, you don't go to a hotel, you don't go to the bathroom, you don't get something to eat at McDonald's, you don't get a cup of coffee, you don't call your family, you go right to the gym. And it's wearing and it's very taxing, and there's a lot of politics, and that's why a lot of Americans that play overseas, they want to find a league or a country that suits their style, is going to pay them correctly, they're not going to chase, but where there's more Americans, because they know what they're getting into, and they want to be with their own, because they cannot understand more of the politics, especially with the language barrier. But I also know that some of the players that have played overseas that have been wonderful players in D1. And I called games for years for the TBL. You know, the new league 9450, they had players that played in the NBA. They had players that played D1. And now these players, because the season's over, they're going back overseas. And some of their games is more suited overseas. It fits their style. And overseas, they do a substantial amount of scouting before they bring these players over, because they could be paying them $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 a month, plus housing, boarding, food stipend, travel. They better get their money's worth, right? The bang for the buck. That's why a lot of times you know exactly if the player is legit, not by the tape, by the first time they step on the floor off the plane, because they don't give a shit if you are tired, fatigued, you are flying for 12 hours, you had 4 delays, you had 4 stopovers. They want to see exactly what their investment is. And I've had players tell me, Rich, as soon as I got off the plane, I went to the gym, they sent me right back home 2 days later. Now, are they going to do that with a Caitlin Clark? I don't think so, because her value beyond the stats. And I think maybe, and it could be my fault, at times I get too fixated on that. So at times I think to myself, she's valued at X. That's why she should be playing at B. Meaning, look what she's bringing to the table. Look what she's brought to the table revenue-wise, CBA-wise, marketing-wise, branding-wise, merchandise-wise. And now you're basically going to treat her like a second-class citizen. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Mike in Ohio chimes in. Q, I'm agree with you. It's all about the eye test. What do we got there? CC Lover for Life chimes in. Rich, I think you're the only one that actually hit the nail right on the head. It is a complete manipulation of the system and sabotage. This league is beyond woke. The league is tough, man. It is tough. It's tough, man. It's tough. He was a player and a coach and a referee. You guys are going back and forth. Okay, I got you. You guys can argue about that all you know. Hey, listen, I appreciate anyone that understands basketball, and they put it out there in a good form. So I can tell you this, if you guys are new to the channel, and thank you so much, the best you can do is like, comment, subscribe. On cue, Rich Quinones here on a Monday. We typically say our Mondays are man up Mondays, because we got to man up for any outrageous takes, but if you know hoops, and I respect you. I'll have to check out the show. I'm one of those guys where if you got a different thought, opinion, I like to hear it. I really do. I don't, everyone has their fill, and the fact that you guys have been chiming in and engaging with me for well over an hour, it's great. I don't try to give you the clickbait. I believe the best thing for her is to get traded. I believe the best thing for her is to get moved, and I think LA makes perfect sense. But again, it's going to be that king's ransom. The other part of me, right, the angel on the shoulder says she's got to get moved, man. She got to. It's the best thing for her. She would flourish. The little devil says they're never going to do it because of her value. Hence the thumb. That's all I'm saying. Isn't that a form of manipulation and sabotage? Or am I off base? Honestly, let me know if I'm off base, because you can't tell me you have that good of a player, that talent of a player, generational talent that brings in so much beyond the scope of stats. And this is how she's being treated. I watch a lot of games. And I'm telling you, if that's the case, then I don't think you have the right head coach. But you're not going to move the head coach. You're not going to fire the head coach. That's all. Bottom line is, what is priority? Playing winning basketball or marketing Caitlin Clark? That's a good comment. Current formula has everyone on the team instead of playing of both ends and games finishing with wins. So it's a great, great, great comment. I want to pull it up. Thank you very much. The way the league is, as you and I think we're on the same page with this. Wins. Wins are important. But you can win and you can still lose. Because what is happening is they are really doing damage, I think, to her psyche. And I know you might sit there and say, well, hold on a second. She's a big girl. She's making millions of dollars. She'll get over it. I start to see a little bit of, I don't know, kind of cracks in the armor. I do. I see cracks in the armor. I see frustration starting to fester, and then it takes her out of her game, off of her spot. You know, when you're frustrated and you're forcing, that's when you make poor choices in life, bad decisions, right? You panic a little bit. Your point is 100% accurate, brother. It's 100%, it's accurate. It really is. Because wins are the most important thing. But as crazy as it sounds, long term, you might lose out with some of these wins. Because I think they're going to look around, it's diminishing her value. That's the other thing that worries me. You know, if you're not letting her go out there, and let's just say in a perfect world, if she played her 28 minutes, she's going to get what? 22, 7 and 6, 25, 10 and 6. You know, she's going to teeter right around a triple-double, which makes what? Her value as a player, contract-wise, go up exponentially, which means, all right, now we got to consider really paying her. So if they're playing the game, and that's kind of what I've been saying the last couple of weeks, and some people don't want to realize it. They're playing the game. They're using her as a little puppet. They're exploiting her. They're seeing exactly how much we can get out of her that benefits us. She's turned into a mercenary. She really has. She has turned into a mercenary where it's just a usable part. That's all. It is a usable part. And that can also water down the product, and it can diminish your value. And I think the more the coach does this, the more the front office allows it, you might start to, at the end of the day, get a malcontent. You know, her skin is cracking a little bit. Right? Her skin is cracking. Fever lost several times, Bailey to weaker teams, gave up large leads. She had the ball in her hands a few times to get the win. Look, listen, Larry Bird missed shots. Michael Jordan missed shots. Reggie Miller missed shots against the Knicks from the charity stripe. The greats missed shots. She didn't create the game of basketball. She's a lightning rod. She's a polarizing athlete. She's a polarizing figure. She is the square peg that doesn't fit the round hole of the WNBA. And because it's Caitlin Clark, it's magnified. That's all. It's magnified. And we're not having this conversation if it's another player. That's the beauty of it. And some people might get the fatigue of it. That's fine. I understand. But I think it's fascinating because the trade deadline's right around the corner, and I kind of laid out the scenario for you. I painted the picture. You're giving up a king's ransom. You're giving up a king's ransom. And I know there's been very viral trade rumors. All right. Hoop 6 chimes in. Q, I don't watch that. I don't watch that channel. It's clickbait. You keep it real. Listen, I'm not concerned with other channels. I can appreciate people putting out content. If it's knowledgeable content, that's great. The other stuff, I don't worry about that. I worry about what I do on the air, and I try to engage you guys. I totally believe SW was brought in to do exactly what she's doing to keep Caitlin from reaching her true potential. Yeah, I just, like I said, I don't want to kind of belabor the point. I'm a big eye test, and I think if you kind of peel back the curtain and peel back the layer, you kind of see. And what happens is when you do that, you are kind of dividing the team. There's going to be natural friction on the floor, and then players are going to start saying, I'm just going to go out there and get mine. Doesn't matter what level. It doesn't matter what sport. It doesn't matter what league. That's when players start to get selfish. You're going to do this, You're going to treat me like that? I'm going to get mine. My contract, okay, I got an expiring contract. I'm going to get mine. Tom Summers Point chimes in. Q, not the biggest WNBA fan, but pretty interesting what you said and how you laid it out with Magic Johnson. Yeah, I think listen, to me, I mean, it almost, he's got sway, man. He is a key figure in that front office. And he's always, pretty much the one on X talking about major, decisions, and he loves Caitlin Clark. Obviously, look what he did when he was with the Lakers as a player, right? I mean, he's an all-time great, Magic Johnson is. He admires, he appreciates the game. But you got to have a willing dance partner. That's the other thing. And it's very hard to find in life, right? You have to have a willing dance partner. So the upside is the Lakers are getting that franchise guard for the next 10 years. Not the Lakers. LA's getting that franchise guard. Maybe the Lakers need a guard. LA's getting that franchise playmaker and that guard, and they can build. And yes, to those that keep saying, stop bringing up off the court, you have to take that in consideration, man. Because that deals are also made because of what you believe, the value, what you can get out of it, right? So hear me out for a second. When you look at Indiana Fever's, the valuation, it jumped exponentially. It was like 70, 80 million. Then they draft her, and now it's ballooned. Now, I don't know if you want to debate the upside of it, right? The merit of how quickly it ballooned. So you would counter with me and say, well, that's why, Q, the trade's impossible because of what she's meant to the franchise. Other teams look around and they're like, damn, they drafted her. She's already an all-time great. She's going to ascend to the ranks of an all-time great. She took that franchise from 90 million to 500 million. Imagine what she can do with us. That means Indiana is holding all the cards and they can get that friggin' King's ransom. So you imagine for a second that she was traded to LA or another team, but let's just say LA for the sake of argument. You're talking unprecedented. It would be a historic haul. It really would. It really would. Now, Joe said, what would it be, Q? I would venture to guess 3, 4, maybe a minimum 5 first-round draft picks. It would just be unbelievable. And then if you're Indiana, you get picks, you get equity, you get rotational players, you get a high caliber, you get stars to instantly fill in with those roster spots. You build around Mitchell. The metrics, again, I'd have to look into it a little more. And then if you're LA, you're building around that younger team. You've got the guard, you've got some expiring contracts, you've got the playmaker, and you've got the backcourt. And again, I hate the fact that, pardon me, that the reality is the downside, right? It's like when someone says, well, you hate your job, but you work 9 to 5, you don't like it, you make okay money, but you get to go home every night and see the kids. And you get to go to sporting events and spend time with the missus. You don't have to work on the weekends where, hey, man, if you're taking this job, you're working 12 hours, but you're going to make 3 times as much and you might be miserable. Like, you have to, the risk to reward, because I think her popularity, which, again, her immense talent, because she's drawing doubles on the floor, but her personality, her character, what she does in community, the eyeballs, the fannies in the seats, the merchandising, the jerseys, everything, they lose that. And that affects what? The bottom line, which means the franchise valuation, it would go down exponentially. It would. So you guys make very good points, and I try to counter those points. That's all. You're dead on accurate. They want her to play like handoff type QB instead of Mahomes. Yeah, it's just, and Scott, appreciate that, pal. It's just my thought. And again, everyone has an opinion on it, but I don't like when somebody's skill set is not being utilized. And sometimes it's a tough watch because what happens is the player then becomes very frustrated. Like when Lamar Jackson broke into this league, we knew Lamar Jackson was an instinctual quarterback. So what did he want to do? He wanted to put the ball down, even if he didn't look over the safety. He didn't look over the top. His instincts, tuck it and run. right? And that led to what? Sometimes he takes some hits, unnecessary hits. Sometimes he would, get hit and fumble. Then all of a sudden, hey, let's make him a pocket passer. But there's growing pains with that. You're tapping on the ball, holding on to the ball. The line's not giving that max protection. His instincts then take over. Then he starts to run. That's his game. Secondary is the pure pocket passer. So you rob the offense around that. Now, it helps when you can run the football because it's going to open everything up. It's apples and oranges, but if you followed me, it's kind of where I'm going today. And don't get it twisted. Mitchell's a hell of a player, but I just don't see a fit with her and Caitlin Clark on the floor at the same time, because Mitchell might be sitting there saying, I'm bypassing her, and Caitlin Clark might be saying she's not the first offensive option. I am. I mean, the one play that was actually drawn out, I think, after a timeout, you saw Clark basically, I think it was the second quarter, maybe towards the end of the second quarter, she flashed, she cut, she went right to the bucket. It was a thing of beauty. It was a little two-man game. I don't see a lot of that. Because the other thing is, if I'm Caitlin Clark, and I'm trying to defend her, and if I'm going to double, I got to think about what I'm going to do. Am I going to slide over? If I got someone on the low block, but I see her in the perimeter, am I going to cheat? Do I slide? Because she's got that court vision. She can find the open man. Can she put it on the floor? All right, if I dripped out, am I going to try to contest that shot where if you saw a couple times Cunningham set the screen, she rolled around, and she can shoot it anywhere on the floor. Like, that's a special player. Some of the shots she makes, you kind of just sit back and say, wow. That's a special talent. It really is. And listen, the players that I mentioned, the Wilsons, the Mitchells, all these players, they're very good. They're really, really good. I just don't think it's a good fit. And the coach, to me, is the problem. It's magnifying the problem. That's all I'm saying. I think Stephanie White is purposely holding her back to not blow out records so fast and make her irrelevant. Yeah, a lot of you guys, Mikey, I appreciate it, pal. Everyone called me out on that. They said I was actually goofy to bring that up. I don't think I am. I think this woman's demeanor and her character and her personality is to go out of her way. She strikes me as a very vindictive person. That is a dangerous person. She strikes me as a petty head coach. She does. She does. Now, if you look at her contract, you don't know what the Fever are going to do. If they make a deep run here, then your guess is as good as mine, man. If they extend her, and then you start to talk about the decisions that you're going to make, because you're not going to let Cunningham and Mitchell walk. You're not. You got to get value for players, right? But as a head coach, I don't like her coaching philosophy. And quite frankly, I can live with you being a good coach, but also have the respect of your players. If you're a bad, clueless coach and you treat your players like shit, or you play favorites, or you're manipulative, there's no place for you. The great ones, we overlook it because they win. We overlook it. Parcells knew exactly what mental and mind games to do. Hey, Phil, we got the Eagles this week. I'm going to get on your ass. I'm getting on your ass this week. I'm getting on your ass at practice. I'm going to just basically dog the shit out of you, and you're going to take it. And Sims would respond. Belichick. He knew exactly the mental mind games. Like the great ones, they can get away with it. You know why? Because they win. Because they win. And I still go back to one of the reasons ESPN refused to dog her is because of the fact that she's in a relationship with Lisa Salters, which I don't care about her sexual preference. Lisa Salters is a respected journalist on ESPN. They're not going to bash one of her contemporaries that has a direct relationship with said head coach, and the fact that Stephanie White worked at ESPN for so many years. But if you go on face value and you look at her coaching philosophy, especially in college, and her record, I don't give a shit if she won a title in Purdue and she played in the WNBA. She's a horrible head coach. And you saw it in college with Vanderbilt. She was horrible. When you have starters, she was 46 and friggin' 83 in 5 seasons. She won 13 games in the SEC. That's a $1.94. That's the Mendoza line. 13 and 54. There's a reason that she got dismissed. There's a reason she got dismissed. And everyone was trying to say, put context to the departure, right? And then she goes to the WNBA and obviously Connecticut, and it's successful. So Indiana bought into it. You know, you dance with the devil you know, not the devil you don't know. But she is not fit to be a coach with Caitlin Clark on the roster. So again, here's the rub. What typically happens? The player goes or the coach goes? GM's not going to get rid of the head coach, and they're not going to trade the player. That's why it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because you don't want a great player to languish. You don't want that. I think someone brought up the Mark Price, who was a hell of a player, you know. But even Cleveland knew, you know, at the end of the day, it runs through Mark Price. And then you got Elos, and then you got the Nances and the Dohertys of the world. They were smart enough to understand that. Lenny Wilkins was smart enough to understand it. She is a jackass. She's a clown. She's got her head up her you-know-what. Her head up her you-know-what. That's all. Let her go to bigger market team and watch her explode even more in popularity and superstar. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. I want it to happen. I want her to go to LA and just blow it up. Blow up. You know, beat a man, beat a girl, beat a woman. Right? That's what I want. And I want to see, you know, the Fever not lose games, languish, but I want it to come back to the head coach. Right? That's all. I wanted to go back to the head coach. Respect. When Magic came in the league, the thing that took him to the next level was the ring. Her value could never sink if the Fever wound up hosting the trophy at the end of the year. Remember one thing, though, and you guys are making some really friggin' great points today. Thank you. And I love the hoops talk, by the way, and I love the passion and the energy from you guys. Magic won a ring early in his career. Remember Game 6, jump ball, what was it? 39 and 16, whatever the hell it was against the Sixers. He never got along with Westhead. That's why he wanted to trade. I mean, he won a ring early in his career. And if you also recall, they kind of were sluggish that following season. He had a lot of turnovers. Even Magic in playoffs, in crunch time, in NBA Finals, held the ball too long a couple times. Even Magic made critical mistakes. Now, to your point, Magic, when Bird and Magic came out, the NBA was, and they took the league to another level. So, in a way, yes, agree with you. A little pushback, I think it was the timing. Because you knew in college, Magic and Bird. And this is where I go back to, if the WNBA was really smart, you get rid of, I call her Humperdinck, you get rid of Kathy Engelbert. You bring in a marketing and branding expert from the NBA. Because they didn't prepare for the buzz, the impact that Clark was going to have. They were ill-equipped to handle it. They had no clue what they were doing. The NBA, when Magic and Bird came, David Stern was basically like, hey man, bring the NBA back. Like, it grew organically, the buzz. So to your point, the value of said player, it was consistently going to go up because every game was all about what? Every moment was all about what? What was going on? What was the hottest ticket in the 80s? In the NBA, it was the Lakers. It was Showtime. And in the 80s, that whole decade, the two teams represent the league in the finals every year, Boston and the Lakers. And it just so happened they met in the finals as well, multiple times. So if she wins, if Indiana wins this year and Clark is still the bit role player that she is right now, I don't know if it really makes the value. Yeah, she's a winner because then the pro Clark will say, well, she won a championship, leave her alone. But then the cynics, the skeptics, the trolls, the haters, the ones that are just trying to, well, it's really Mitchell's team. She had 35 in a closeout game, right? And Caitlin struggled a little bit. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think you're onto something, right, church? Maybe not the right pew, but I do think you're onto something. I ultimately believe, though, she's never going to flourish in the league in this situation. And full transparency, there's no guarantee that it would be 100% it works out in LA. I just think she needs to get out of Indiana. It is toxic. It's toxic, right? It is. It's toxic. That's all. That's all I'm saying. That's it. It's not a great comment. It's a bad faith argument that people who put down Caitlyn and want her to be a role player make. I see a lot. I don't want her to. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm misreading it. I don't want her to be a role player, right? Magic played with Hall of Famers. Clark needs to. They need to let her cook. They do. They need to let her cook. They need to be a little more creative with the offense. And I guarantee you, she's an unselfish player. Mitchell's going to get hers. Trust me. She's going to get hers. You have to let it come organically. It's like a fighter. You know, for those that are tuning in for the first time, I call the fights. I call the fights all over the country, and I call them for streaming platforms and TV. And I always equate this. I always say it on the air. You know, the knockout will come, man. You keep going to the body, the head's going to fall, right? You can't go looking for the knockout. You got to have it organically. It's got to be organic. If you go back and you look what Clark did in June, she was amazing. 16, 24, 25, 26, 26, 32. She was playing a shit ton of minutes. And then obviously with the tweaking of the back and the physicality and the fouls, the minutes drop off, production drops off, confidence drops off. What the coach is doing is she's alienating Caitlin Clark because she's playing favorites. And we're not in that locker room. So you can listen to 1,000 talking heads on YouTube, on X, on TV. They're not in that locker room. They're not. And these players, they're very coy and they're very smart about what they're going to say and what they're not going to say. Hence the body language. Hence the eye test. You see it. You start to see some cracks in the foundation. You can still be winning games, but behind the scenes, there's cracks in the foundation. Now, if you want to sit there and say, well, hold on a second, Rich, then she's a selfish player. She's not a team player. I'm not saying she's going to come out and say she wants her 35. That's not what I'm saying. She wants a bigger role. She's earned that right. She's proven that. Her body of work speaks for itself. She should also be part of that offense, a bigger cog, a bigger option in that offense. And right now, it's scaled back. It's dumbed down. It's not. It's Mitchell's team, and it runs through her. And there might be a moment, maybe as the season goes on, maybe during the playoffs, where Mitchell has that off night. And then we're really going to see. Because if you're an all-time great, if you're number 22, that's when you got to take over a game. And that's where you're going to really start to see the physicality, how the game's going to be officiated. They're going to draw the double. They're going to force her out of her game. And you're already seeing it because they know they can do it. So she's pressing because she already knows now in the back of her mind, she knows when the coach comes out and basically says, yeah, minutes restriction. In Caitlin's mind, as a player, we're saying, man, 15, 20 minutes. You know, the fears, I jack one up. I'm 1 of 4. I'm getting benched. I'm getting pulled. It's mind games. It's alienation. So I still go back to it's a form of manipulation and sabotage. I do. They do not want her to break records. They don't. They don't, which is crazy. And it shows you the coverage by ESPN. I started the show off by saying this, by the way, Monday edition on Q. Appreciate all the new commenters. Thank you guys. You guys are fantastic. If you like the content, the show, subscribe to the channel. A lot of NBA up there as well, more NFL later in the week. But I mentioned this. Even ESPN, if you go back to the recap, they don't even acknowledge it. They don't even, I think that's something to acknowledge. Fastest player in WNBA history with 600 assists. They don't even acknowledge it in the recap. It says Mitchell Clark lead Fever, 109-75 win over Wilson and the Aces. Then you go through the byline. Clark had 12, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Mitchell had 27. Indiana beats Wilson and the Aces, 109-75 Sunday night. Second graph, here we go. Type it up. Mitchell becomes the 5th player in WNBA history to score at least 25 points in 6 consecutive games. There's nowhere that it says about the assist record. I'm telling you, it's bizarre. It's beyond bizarre at this point. It's comical. It's comical. And I laugh at it. I really do. I laugh at it. It's really simple. They seen what she did in her rookie season, knew she would be the greatest player ever in the WNBA, and said, wait, we can't let that happen. So she was injured. And what was that? In the season? I think there's something to be said about how we view players or great athletes and the pettiness, right, Ashley? I think you mentioned this last week. I think you were dead on. The pettiness, the jealousy, right? I mean, look, men are more petty and jealous than women are. I can only speak for men. I mean, sometimes they're just like, they're like cackling old ladies, man. They get real petty. But I think there's something to be said about that, and the fact that some just don't want other people or players to get the shine. That's all. Now, I said this several weeks ago, and hence about 170 something odd comments. The WNBA has a major problem on their hands because they are very inclusive. They've made it known. So when I say Caitlin Clark doesn't fit the narrative and the agenda, you guys can put two and two together. She is the round peg in the square hole. And I always tell you, I give you guys free reign to comment on the show as long as there's no threats, hate. You guys, what I do, and I've done it for years on the radio, we speak. We talk truth. We're very frank. We're very raw, and we're passionate on the air, and we try to be very transparent. And, I see a lot of comments coming in, and I'm going to pull them all up, but I think some of you have also mentioned and hit and nailed the elephant in the room. And where a lot of you took some exception of what I said 2 weeks ago, it wasn't anything that was outlandish. When I said the square peg in a round hole, I think some within the league look at her, and we know race is always an issue, and we try to avoid it, but it's the elephant in the room. And you look at the league itself, and again, I've told you this time and time again, but I do feel like for the new listeners, commenters, I have to preface the statement by saying, I don't care if you are white, black, yellow, green, blue. I don't care if you are straight, left. I don't care if you are gay. I don't care. I don't care. If you can ball, you can ball. I'm a fan. But I think there's an element of race that plays in this equation. And I also think they look at her. She's straight. She doesn't fit the narrative. She doesn't fit what the league wants. And for the life of me, it shows how narrow-minded, not forward-thinking people are. You've got the golden goose. You've got the cash cow. And you continue to shit on it. Right here chimes in. Caitlin Clark has the potential to become the greatest women's basketball player who's ever lived. They don't want that because she's white, straight. This is the main reason for all this agenda. I think it's fair to talk about. I do. Look, everyone knows that KM and CC can't play together in the SW system, so Trader should try to let CC shine. So you're saying now, I want to pull this back up. I like that Gnarly Brothers 6710. Good handle. So you believe they should trade Mitchell? Is that what I'm understanding? Instead of trading Caitlin Clark, which is kind of interesting because the coach is building this team around KM, right? And she's under contract. I think she's got that did she sign that Supermax deal, right? And I know there's a lot of trade talk. You can't allow her though to walk. She's got a 1-year Supermax, so she's not eligible to be traded right now. She's going to finish out the season. Now, it's a 1-year deal. She's going to hit free agency. Do you pay her? See, the other option is, do you just play it out right now? Are some of you thinking, Rich, just let it play out? Let the season play out. Let Mitchell get hers. Let Caitlin get hers. Let them win 20 plus. Make a deep run in the playoffs. Then they'll figure it out in the offseason. That's also an option we can certainly explore down the road. But as I said, man, I'm telling you, the optics make it look goofy. Make it look goofy. Brian chimes in. Fever have a messed up cap so bad with contract to Hall and others for 2 years. So if CC signs, yeah, big deal. They can't keep both CC and Mitchell. No, they can't. But I still hearken back to they won't give her that deal. Because this is, for everything that you guys are saying, the comment, you guys are really on point with your line of thinking. And obviously you know hoops and you cover the league and I love it. And I appreciate it. Everything is contingent upon what? Like, what is the big, big elephant in the room? It's the head coach. Is this happening if this is another head coach or GM? It is the head coach. So as long as she is pulling the strings, it's her rodeo, man. It's her show. It's her show, period. And that's why I think if the GM had any inkling of, man, I'm about to lose something big here. Like if Amber Cox, who is the GM, she's also the COO, if she just, really understood what's at stake and the gravity of it, play it out, and if they get bounced early, if it blows up, if there's bickering, if there's barking, if there's cackling, if there's whatever, more fan base, backlash from the fans, you fire the head coach, and I'm telling you, you will get a list of head coaches that want to coach this team in Caitlin Clark, and you figure out which one understands her strengths. Because during the interviewing process, how do you see this offense working? And when the one coach turns around and says, we're building it around number 22, I mean, hey, man, that's when you write the check. That's when you write the check. So for some that are saying, well, you got to trade Mitchell, you got to let it play out in a season. I just don't believe they're... See, my whole crux, the reason that I said she's got to get traded now is I don't see Amber Cox firing Stephanie White. And the coach to me is the biggest friggin' culprit. The coach to me is the biggest friggin' problem. Period. And they're deep. Like I said, they are a deep team. They are a balanced team. They can go on a run. Now, if they go on a run, and again, she's picking up the slack, and all of a sudden she's going off in the playoffs, yeah, of course the value's at an all-time high, no doubt. We all know that. But here's the other elephant in the room rub. Like, this is what makes it so fun to talk about. You got a coach on the hot seat, right? Now, what happens if they do win it all? Are you going to sit there and say, well, we won in spite of her? You're not going to say that. Well, she did a hell of a job making it work, and everyone still got theirs, and Caitlin was happy, and she won, and Mitchell got hers, and Sophia. Everyone contributed. Here we go. And we won a championship. Now that coach has what? More cachet, more leverage. It's like so cynical, sports. That's why sometimes the toughest move you have to make, you hate it. You're ripping the Band-Aid off. You don't want to do it. You know you're going to bleed for a while. Trading her, if they were to do it, it would devastate a lot of people. It would be crushing, and you would get so much equity back, right? And then she goes on, she has this long, distinguished career. She's winning titles with LA or whomever, and everyone's going to sit there and say, I can't believe it. Well, you should believe it because it's never going to work. How are we defining it? It's subjective. So I can say, what if Indiana wins 3 championships over the next 5 years, but Clark is that bit player? And we never really see her be that transcendent generational talent. It kind of loses a little bit of luster because the WNBA promised us, they came out and said, this is a new era of basketball. It hasn't been treated like that. So now if the head coach is on the hot seat, Coughlin's on the hot seat, 2004, 2005, really on the hot seat, 2006, really on the hot seat, 2007. They start 0-2. They lose to the Green Bay Packers and the Cowboys. They give up 83 yards. They get the goal line stop in D.C. They pick up their first win. They win 6 straight. They go on to win a Super Bowl. No more hot seat. Everyone forgot about Tom Coughlin being on the hot seat. And he managed to coach how many more years? And he won another Super Bowl. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't, man. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Everyone wants Stephanie White out, but if they make a run and they make a deep run in the playoffs and they win it all, Stephanie White's not going anywhere. So, be careful what you think for. Be careful what you wish for. It's a tough spot, man. I don't envy Indiana fans. I don't envy Fever fans. I don't. I really don't. CC not getting traded this year. Fever need a championship to have the street cred to trade her. As the champs, they can afford to do that. Not now. I think her resume, right, speaks for itself, does it not? Right? Will not leave now because by luck this fever win the chip without her. It would be bad for her. Cece will leave after this and end the season. It's funny you mention that, Felipe, because it reminds me, because I'm a Giants fan, and Tiki used to be my guy, Tiki Barber, the running back. So the year Tiki Barber, his last year, he retires, the Giants win the Super Bowl there right this year, and everyone says, it looks like a bad look, right? Yeah, you nailed it. Which starts what? The GM. You gotta get rid of what? Six people? Man, I'm telling you. That is I want to go back to where I started the show. You can have a good thing in front of you and not know how to nurture it. And it can still be fulfilling, but it maybe never hits its full potential. It can be like a relationship, right? You're just satisfied. We're getting along to go along. But, if we really put more time and investment into each other, it can be more fulfilling. We're going to last longer. Hell, we might get married. We might have a family. We might not. We might break up. But at least you're going to try, right? Life is short. You got to try. In this instance, this is where I think this franchise and this team is right now. And we see it. Sometimes you think you got a good thing, but you don't know how to nurture it. You take advantage of it. Then that said person walks. I've seen it so many times in different sports, man. And if you guys really believe in your heart of hearts that this team has the makeup and the juice and the depth to make a run, then you play it out. You play it out. But I don't see it changing because of the head coach. The head coach, Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark, dynamic, the relationship trying to fit her on the floor with that dynamic, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So you're going to either move some player, you're going to trade one player, you're not going to re-sign a player, you're not going to give max to another player, or you're going to fire the head coach and bring in a whole new front office. I mean, decisions, right? Because you got a lot of people you got to answer to. And sometimes what cures all of that? Winning. And right now, they did show you last night they can compete with the best. 100%. 100%. Right? And they also showed you they can do it with what? Limited Caitlin Clark. Now, the ownership falls under who? Herb Simon, Stephanie White, she's the head coach. And you got the team president. And you got the GM, Amber Cox. It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating. I hate seeing great players that have wonderful, generational talent get bogged down. I really do. And we see it too. We see when some players they're not given full reign, right? No one's suggesting, you go out there and you chuck it all over the place. No one's suggesting that. But hey, man, if I know my quarterback can run that RPO and he can take off and run, design a couple RPO plays, man. If he's starting to get his ass hung out to dry, then all of a sudden, all right, we got to think about maybe running the football. Utilize his skill set. If I know right now in the NBA, you watch enough of the NBA, you saw what Jalen Brunson did, right? The more physical they were with Jalen Brunson, the more pissed off he got. You might get frustrated if he's missing his shots or he's having some bad turnovers or he might be a defensive liability. But at the end of the day, what's his specialty? He can close. He can score. That's what he does best. You go on the road in NBA Finals and you score 40-plus in a closeout game, that's a special player. That's a special player. All these other players, I never like comparing, right? I never like comparing because I always say, for those that want to compare LeBron to Jordan and Jordan LeBron, that's a piss poor comparison. Two totally different players. You want to compare LeBron James, you compare him to Magic Johnson. Then we can have that conversation. But we're always looking for the next great one to replace the great one. And I think in this instance, because the WNBA was kind of teetering, right? They weren't where they needed to be. They were hoping for that next great player. They wished it, they willed it, they wanted it, they just didn't prepare for it. So when she burst on the scene, and the other difference is, and this is where what Sonny Vaccaro said with Nike, because they waited so long regarding promoting the shoe. And Sonny Vaccaro knows a thing or two about sneakers, branding, promotion. He said in some capacity, in some form, in some way, shape, or form, Caitlin Clark had more of buzz, appeal, burst on the scene than Jordan. And he's 100% correct. You know why? We already knew who Caitlin Clark was in college. We already knew. She was an all-time great. Michael Jordan, you go back to that Final Four, you go back to that game in 82 against Georgetown, he hits a little jumper from the coffin corner. I always say this. You know, if Freddie Brown doesn't throw it away to James Worthy, you know, is Michael Jordan Michael Jordan? You know, it's like overshadowed, but he won the championship. Now, I still think he's the rarefied where he's still going to have that great career, but no one looked at Jordan at that time where, man, and remember too, he also got hurt early on in his career, tore up his knee. But then we saw 86-63 against Boston in the playoffs, and then the legend began. So Vaccaro, when he says something like that about the markability, sky's the limit, it does come back to the dollars, folks. As much as some of you don't want to believe it, yes, stats, talent, winning, but it is a bottom line business. It's what have you done for me lately? These owners want to make money, man, because they've got egos. In the NFL, they want to win championships, but they also want to make money. So you got all these good old boys sipping on their brandy and their whiskey and smoking cigarettes and cigars and all this other crap. Top shelf, here we go. Hey, we didn't win last year, but guess what? We jumped $300 million in valuation. That's all they care about. That's all they care about. Now, I don't know if it's the same thing in this league, but the fact that she burst on the scene and she lifted up every single franchise speaks volumes. That's all. It speaks volumes to me. It shows you the value that she has. It shows you the worth. And sometimes you can't put a price tag on that. You just can't. Let me see. I agree with you. The point would bring the NBA exec. I think WNBA would rather crash and burn. Let me take credit for moving them to the next level. I think, but the NBA is the one that lifted up the WNBA. Right? The NBA said, here we go. Here's permission. Let's go. Here's your feeder system. And Adam Silver, he's not looking around saying, I don't really care about the fouls. Adam Silver's too worried about all these gambling allegations going around. Adam Silver's pissed off that the Knicks won the series in 5. I get one at me? This is a first. All right. I knew your voice sounded familiar. I'm a huge fight fan. I just didn't know you had a B-ball channel too. Much respect, bro. I appreciate that. Yeah, the channel itself, I got a lot of fight footage. I do my Double Jab pod. We do a ton of NFL. We also have the sports betting pod, Back Your Play, that airs in New York and in the Midwest. So we're going to fire that off. We do a lot of sports betting lines, college football, NFL, and we go heavy. Hoops. The channel itself, it started off doing a lot of combat sports boxing, but you know, I wanted to take my 20 plus years in radio, and I like to have control over what I say over the mic or on the mic, as opposed to, you know, some of the stops I've had terrestrial radio, and that's why I wanted to create more of the content. So I took a lot of my radio segments and just basically plopped them on the YouTube channel, if that makes sense, because it's not filtered. I mean, we can bring up certain comments. You know, we can talk certain things on the air. That's not taboo. You know, people don't get bent out of shape, or you don't have to worry about, you know, I have my advertisers. They've been with me for years. They're happy. So I appreciate the kind words. It's very flattering and humbling. Thank you. But I love basketball. You know, I call games, as I said, in the States for various leagues. I do leagues in Asia, Warriors, Thailand. That'll start up in January and February. I call a smaller tier women's league as well. So I just appreciate basketball. I love the sport, but I don't like what I'm seeing in this league. And I kind of laid out the reasons why. And sometimes if the product's bad, the product's bad. I mean, I've had a problem for years with the NBA because, you know, we know in the NBA, I'm so happy the Spurs didn't win, because then I think everyone will look at Wemby and say, you can build your team around that size, right? And then you have Becky Hammond, coincidentally enough, on the bench last night. Every time I look at her, I just laughed, you know, who said that you need that 1A guy, and Jalen's not that guy. And, Becky Hammon, she's an all-time great, don't get me wrong, but, let's be honest, the Isaiah Thomases of the world or the Currys of the world would like to have a conversation with you because you can win with a 6'1", 6'2" guard, right? I mean, the Pistons did with Zeke. Obviously, the Knicks did with Brunson. So I absolutely love basketball. I mean, I was flipping through last night and then a lot of summer league going on. Is it likely they will trade her before the cutoff? I mean, it's just what I was throwing out there. The trade deadline in the WNBA is August 2nd. And one of the reasons I also brought it up, because I do have a little bit of the conspiracy theorist in me, I was thinking last night when I was watching the game, and I was going back and I was looking at her minutes restriction. And part of me was also thinking, they don't want her to get hurt. Because if she gets hurt, it's a lot more difficult to trade an injured player. Now, you guys are probably like, you're really going conspiracy theorist on me. Yes, but where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And you see it a lot of times, man. You start holding them out. Watch what happens. So today is July 13th. And let me pull up. I mean, I know their next 4 or 5 games by heart, but I just kind of want to go down. So they have tonight, tomorrow off. They have Golden State, Seattle, New York, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Then they have Connecticut, July 22nd. They're on the road, July 28th. On the road, July 31st. Sunday, August 2nd, they're on the road at Minnesota. So, if you see a DNP, we know what happens. Just see how the minutes are logged. Just see how the minutes, 15, 20. You never know. You never know. There's always a method behind some goofball's madness, right? And if you get closer to the deadline and it's a, rest back, coach's decision, rest back, not playing, I think it'll fuel more speculation. That's all. This is just me. I didn't hear anyone else bring it up, talk about it. This is just me. You start to see 12 minutes, 15 minutes. Explain to me the other day, they had her on a minutes restriction, but the next day, the Fever Twitter account, the X account, mentioned on the injury report, she wasn't going to play, but it had rest. It didn't have back. Like, again, that's kind of manipulating this. It is. It's not being transparent. It's being misleading. So now, okay, she plays 15 minutes against Golden State, 12 minutes against Seattle. Maybe she sits against New York. Maybe they saw something they didn't like in practice or warm up. I don't know. Stranger things have happened. I'm just throwing it out there. That's it. If you guys want to pick it up, pick it up. If you want to lay it down, you can lay it down. Keep in mind, if they trade CC, Indiana local businesses will suffer as well, but they can't blame the front office and coach for that. Listen, there's an old saying, right, Maria, especially in sales, right? I can bring them to your doorstep. The rest is up to you. Of course, it would hurt that market, and the fan base would be devastated. The fan base would look at it and say, we had such a good thing, but you also got to embrace the rest of the players. And I also believe, I put this out on X and on my channel, I think she is such a lightning rod that fans are going to follow her wherever she goes. She is that type of player. In other sports, a player gets traded, he gets released. You might gloss, you might glance, you might check the box score, you might see a highlight. Oh, I'm curious to see what he did. But you're really not going to follow them. You're really not. Unless it was a quarterback who played 15 years and he won multiple Super Bowls. Like for me, my guy was Phil Simms, right? So Phil Simms wins in 86. He gets hurt in 90. Hostetler comes in. They win with Haas. Ray Hanley screws Sims in 91. They bench him, and then Sims gets benched for the next 2 years. Plays in 93. They get blown out by San Fran. He retires. There was talk Sims might go to Cleveland. He might sign with then Arizona. Part of me was like, if he does, I'm going to follow him because that's my guy. You know, I could say the same thing about Eli. I think Caitlin Clark is that person. As you can have millions and millions and millions of Indiana Fever fans. And if she gets traded or signs with another team, they will follow. They will become a fan of that team. They will be, they will watch her even more. That is just my opinion. I could be totally, totally wrong. She walks after this season or get rid of Stephanie White or staff when done is gone. And I say build a team based on my basketball style. Showtime basketball. Okay. You want to get up and you want to run. You want to get up and you want to run. Listen, I don't have a problem with that. But man, how many bunnies are missed in this league? That's another thing. How many bunnies are missed in this league? Oh my God. Some of the shot selection, I'm like, oh, this looks like a glorified scrimmage at the YMCA. And then you got some really good shooters. And you got some really, oh my goodness, there's some good dominant centers and presence in this league, which makes it appealing. You get that down low on the block, little double team kick out, and here we go. I am all for, because again, I was always a diehard Knicks fan. I always kept an eye on what the Lakers were doing because it was Showtime. And it helps when you got wall to wall, hall to hall, Hall of Famers, right? It was a bad game. The Fever didn't play good defense. The Aces shot like drunks with that. What? I mean, they shot well. I'm not saying the Aces did. The Fever shot really well. That's a good one. Drunks without their glasses on. I think that the Spurs having the ball in the hands of a 7-5 so often cost them a few games. Can you imagine Isaiah turning his back and run up the court while Rick Mahorn had the ball on the break? Yeah, it's funny. I think that would have been the worst thing for the NBA because then every team believes you can build around a 7-5. The game's changed. There's no defense in the NBA. There's none. It's Matador defense. It's ISO ball. The NBA is 2 plays. It's either ISO, it's pick and roll. That's it. And I'll tell you, the team that ruined it was Golden State. Golden State ruined it because of the Splash Brothers. When you got Thompson and Curry hitting from friggin' the parking lot. Wemby is going to have to mature. And he showed he's a dirty player. He just signed that big max, and I know they're going to save on the back end. He's going to be a very good player, but you also have to get battle tested, right? And a lot of teams have to go through the trenches. They got to go through the wars. They got to be the first one to step onto the beach, and here we go. It came early for them, right? They arrived early, and sometimes when that happens, you get humbled. We saw it in football with the Patriots and Drake May, right? No, just have her a bit player and then trade her for what you can get for her, and then dribble, shoot Mitchell as your star. You build that team around so the fans will show up to see that. William, appreciate that, brother. Mitchell's definitely will agree. She's a bona fide star, and she's definitely that team right now. I mean, I'm sorry. I know, some fans don't want to hear it. She is. It's her team, but I also believe it's because of the head coach. The coach wants it that way. Coach wants it that way. 444 East Coast, Monday edition on Q. Rich Quinones here. Hey, very easy to get a hold of me, by the way. On X, at Rich Q on Q, IG, at Rich Q, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. I want to get back to these comments and the Hoops Talk as well. If you like the content, subscribe. We're on X, Kicks, Rumble, Millions. Also, Odyssey app, SR1029 FM, The Game, which is based out of Tampa. Let's keep it rolling along with some of these comments as well. What do we got here? Setup was happening just when Stephanie White came to the Fever. This was all starting to drop in place, but go ahead, trade it. LA, I would love it. Can we all agree something needs to be done? Right? Like, right now, I'll throw it out. I'll ask you guys this. If they make a run into the playoffs and they're successful, but they lose in the finals, can you envision a scenario next season? The head coach, Mitchell, and Clark are all together. I don't. I don't. And yes, they got cap issues. I get it. And that's why you can't let certain players walk. That's a problem. I think there's going to have to be a giant blow between CC and White in one of these games coming up where CC says, I want out of here for it to happen before the deadline. Man, Brian, you and I are thinking, we are thinking alike, brother. We are, you're starting to see a little bit of the friction, man. You're starting to see. I think Caitlin Clark missed a golden opportunity. I think after everything happened with Thomas and the foul and the fact that the league basically turned a blind eye and they waited a day later to tag her with the fouls and the suspension, and the head coach came out and supported Thompson first. Now, she supported Thompson in this regard, and I agree. You know, you can't tolerate hate. You can't tolerate death threats, hate messages, whether they're proven or not. I don't condone that. She left Caitlin Clark on an island. Let's not ignore that. It was only after all. See, the problem is Stephanie White is what I call a Johnny come lately. It's after the fact. We all know people like that. We all know people like that, right? I'm telling you, don't push me. I'm telling you, don't push me. You keep pushing me. You keep pushing me. I push back. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. It's always after the fact. The only reason she then came out to support Caitlin Clark was because of what? The backlash by the fans. And this is why I still go back to the fact that the media, they always talk about the X's and O's. How come no one ever talks about the coaching dynamic and the relationship between said head coach and star player? They don't want to touch it. They don't. They just don't. That's why you got a jackass clown on ESPN talking about, well, I can make a strong case. She's not even. Make the freaking case. State your case. Back it up. Just don't say something outlandish. At least the one thing I try to do is when I'm on the air, I try to back up everything, whether you agree or not. I try to state the case. I try to give you both sides. I'm not playing Switzerland, but I'm trying to dive into it a little more and back it up by substance. So when David Dennis or Dennis Davis, whatever the hell his name is from the Rat Ship, talking about, oh, you know, the 11th best, and then all of a sudden Stacey Dales has to come on and basically, you know, eat their lunch and check them. You know, that's the problem with some of these media. They lost the plot when it comes to covering Caitlin Clark. That is a major no-no. That is a major faux pas, man. They're never going to take a shot at the head coach. If this is the NFL, if this is the NBA, now just bear with me for a minute. And this is any other coach in those leagues, they would have been gone by now. They would have been gone by now. Well, she's Teflon? She's in a bubble? Explain it to me. What am I missing? They don't want to take shots at her. They do not want to go after her at all. They don't. They refuse to. Why? Because she's in a relationship with Lisa Salters? Because she called friggin' games for the network? Rex Ryan has no problem taking a shot at head coaches. Rex Ryan has no problem basically almost petitioning himself for said job. You know, there is this, you know, there's this unspoken or unwritten rule, right? You don't wish for a coach to get fired. Former coaches should not talk about other coaches or shouldn't talk about their placing, their status as a current head coach. It's a bad look. It's faux pas. What? If you played the game, you covered the game, and you know the game, and your coach, you're allowed to have a friggin' opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean we all have to believe it, just like you guys might not like my opinion. That's fine. It's okay. Not a problem. Only reason I'm watching and learning basketball is CC. Some of these shooters look like pickup game shooters. Some of the games, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Let me see. Robin chimes in. Have you listened to Beat Chef? That's a hell of a handle. I'm going to have to check it out on YouTube. Very on point, like you. I'm a first-time listener, and you remind me of his detailed analysis. Beat Chef. That's a good handle. Somebody, they catchy titles, man. Catchy titles. I only tell you, again, because I'm pretty entrenched in these sports. And when you call game after game, I mean, I can just tell you from January alone, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, I've called close to 150 basketball games. 150. So what is that? January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So we're talking, what, seven? We're talking almost, I don't know, 150, 160, 20 something a month. Multiple times too. Like back to back games. So I'm immersed. I see it all. I see different styles. I see different coaching styles, different players, different plays, how the game is called. I just, and when I watch this product, it could be good. It could be great. I don't believe that this league is really predicated on defense. I also believe the players, some of them, not all of them, because we know about social media, it's all about the theatrics and the dramatics. And I think a lot of it is, I got to get mine. It's a highlight reel. You lose some fundamentals. I mean, you guys know this, right? 3-on-1, 3-on-2. I'm looking this way. I'm looking that way. All right. Am I going to make the bounce pass? Is it a chest pass? Do I see the defender start to cut? Where I got to put the ball, right? When I swing it, when I skip it. I think some of that is lacking in this league. And what you get at times, you go back to that game the other night where they got blown out. They had a 4-on-1 and they couldn't finish around the rim. It was just piss poor basketball. Whether you sit there and say they don't play hard for her when she's on the floor, I don't know if you can prove that. You want to talk about players maybe not setting a screen hard enough or engaged or getting back on defense. Again, it goes back to what I said 2 hours ago, the eye test. It's all about the eye test. The eyes don't lie. They just don't. You can see for yourself. But it's a bad product at times. And when you're a great player and you're held in check, or you get frustrated, or the offense isn't running smooth, there's no continuity, there's no consistency, that's when great players tend to press. And when you press, just like anything else in life, when you try to force something, typically bad things happen. And you saw last night, an ill-advised, couple bad turnovers, but a couple on a fast break that the players need to grab, little loose change. And they got to finish around the rim. So it's a trickle down. It's a domino effect. I think we can agree, though, this nucleus, this core, they might make a little run, right? But I just don't know at the end of the day how you remedy this, how you move forward. The NBA, if you want to watch overseas, because the ball never touches the floor. Watch overseas. You can watch. You can go on. You can put in all these leagues, whether it's in Croatia. Malta's a little different because they've had some betting scandals. You can look at Sipa Copa, Sipa Pac in Mexico. They have a lot of tournaments in Tijuana. That's a little more. A lot of Americans. A lot of, I don't want to say the street ball mentality. It's not the best product. The league I just called 9450. That was a branch off from the TBL, which is kind of under the G League in the States. But look at leagues in Australia, Austria, Spain, Italy, Portugal. It's sound basketball. And the difference, too, is overseas, especially for the men's game, the reason that we saw this explosion over the last 15, 20 years, the globalization of basketball, I mean, now you watch the draft, they're all European players, they're foreign players. I mean, they're running the show in the NBA, are they not? Because over there, they take that 8-year-old and he's playing against 16-year-olds. They take that 14-year-old and he's playing against 30-year-olds. So they get tested and they grow into their man strength. And they get beaten up. It's physical, but they also learn. There is a knock. There is this perception that European players are soft. That's the furthest from the truth, or farthest. I got corrected on TikTok the other day because I should have said seriously. And I said serious. And that's all he took away from a video that got like 3,000 views. He was that guy that had to be the life of the party. So whether it's further or farther, they're not soft. They're not. The women's game over in Europe, it's not as flashy as it is in the States. Now, you got some very good players, but they're also predicated more on a little baseline jumper. Again, foul line extended, and they also shoot. But they have good guard play. They're not as strong as some of the females that we see in the States, especially. There's some strong, big girls in the WNBA. They're strong. They're tough. They're tough. And they work really well right around the bucket, right around the basket. Fans will be there as long as you win if CC moves to another team and does great. Boss will come out of the ID. When it comes to CC, it's hard to do your thing when you're the old coach. When your old coach is not working in your favor. It's one of the problems. It's one of the problems. Michael chimes in. I agree with you. Something has to be done. I don't know what that is though. Like the league as a whole, they're in trouble. They can sit there and talk about all the revenue and the eyeballs and the ratings. But if she does decide to go overseas or gets backing and start her own league, and I know those are very far-fetched, okay? Very far-fetched. Just hear me out. The ratings will drop. The eyeballs will drop. You can hate on her all you want. It is the effect. The ones that always push back at me and they try to counter some of my arguments, you're missing the boat on a couple things. You're missing the boat on a couple things. She is a draw. That's, there's no Cunningham effect. There's no Reese effect. There's no Wilson effect. It is the Caitlin Clark effect. Now, maybe it rubs people the wrong way, but when you have driven attendance up by nearly 50-something odd percent, when the games that feature you, the attendance has doubled to 110%, when teams we have to move to a bigger venue to meet the demands, that's because of her. But the league was not prepared for this. And now they're scrambling. And now you've got toxicity. You've got a bad culture. You've got friction. You've got a pissed off star player that feels she's being manipulated, alienated, underused. And she's going to play the good soldier because that's what she does. But as I said 2 weeks ago, if that's me, enough is enough. I'm calling out the organization. I'm calling them out. I'm calling them out. And when you're great, what happens? Right? When you're popular, everyone loves you, and you got your circle. You got your council. You got your consiglieres, right? So she probably has 25 people in her ear. And that's got to be frustrating because nobody likes that. You're thinking about making a really big life decision, a life choice. You're thinking about, hey, man, I got to pop the question. Phew, I got the ring. 8 months salary down the drain, might only last a year, but I'm going for it. So what do? You confide in your friends, or you confide in, your father or your brother, your best friend, right? And you tell them, I'm doing it, man. Saturday night. So you're talking to them, right? Now the old man's probably going to give you the words of wisdom that his old man gave him. And you go back and you think about it. And he can tell you, weigh the pros and cons. Here you go. I'm happy for you. Better be careful. Red flag. You go to, 5 or 6 of your buddies, because we all got them. Our friends, the reason we've had friends for so long, or the circle, is because they're the ones that are what? They're the most brutally honest. That's just how it is. So you're probably going to get one or two, man, I'm so happy for you. Then you're going to get the one or two that sit there, oh, man, hey, that's great, Then you're going to get one that says, don't fucking do it. So that's probably, think about it, what she has going on right now, because she's not happy. She's not. She's frustrated, and you're starting to see it on the floor. She needs to decide what's best for her. I'm telling you, we all have those circle of friends, right? She's got leverage, yes and no. She's got leverage, DB, if she decides, I'm done with this shit. She doesn't strike me as a quitter. She doesn't. But I think, she can definitely upset the apple cart. She can. She's on a 4-year rookie contract. They already exercised her club option for 2027, so she's under contract. And she's making more with her endorsements and everything else, right? And the shoe deal. So, you know, again, you got the base salary, you got the club option, and here's the other thing that we didn't really talk about, which goes back to the reason I call it sabotage, you guys don't. Under the new CBA, she's eligible for that EPIC, right, which is that exceptional performance on initial contract provision to renegotiate that 2027 salary and sign an extension. Now, in layman's terms, she's got an opportunity to make a shit ton of money if her stats dictate it. And they won't allow that. So if it just plays out and we get to 2028 and she becomes a restricted free agent, there we go. It's an 8-year, $28 million deal with Nike. She can eat. She's fine. But we always talk about the money side, just a little food for thought. That's all. I agree with you about the ratings drop and the eyeballs drops. Totally agree with you. Some best, some seem to be taking the truth for granted. I think that's it. I think we just, sometimes we have a hard time accepting certain things for what they are. And maybe we just might look at someone and we don't like the way they look, think, act, speak, talk, but we can't deny or dispute what I've laid out. That's factual. And I've had a lot of people push back at me on that, but the numbers don't lie. Like if you were to go to someone within the front office of the WNBA and say, man, Caitlin Clark has done shit for this league, they'd call security and walk you out the door. And some people act like that because they want others to be Caitlin Clark. They want to push their favorite to replace Caitlin Clark. Now, if you're smart and you take a step back, if you work in an office, if you have a job and you work with competent people, everyone makes everyone look good and better. You're all going to profit. You're all going to get raises. You're all going to hit your bonuses. Your revenue is going to be there. The goals are going to be hit. It's a win-win. But it goes back to the league being very divisive. And I blame the commissioner. I blame the commissioner for that too, because she's made very divisive comments. You should be lucky that you're getting what you're getting. If there's a phrase in the world that we need to totally end, I would say the two are a walk-off field goal, because you don't use the term walk-off except for baseball. Get rid of that. Stick that on an island by itself. The other phrase is, you should be lucky to be getting what you're getting. Have you ever had somebody say that to you? Be lucky. Be lucky you're getting what you're getting. You fucking kidding me? Do you know how I got here? But the commissioner made those comments. That's extremely divisive. That's an arrogant thing to say. And it doesn't help that she blew off the interview with Dan Patrick and decided to shank a couple golf balls about 15 yards away. Don't get me started on her. Don't. She's a coward. She's a coward. She's a coward. She can say anything she wants about why she canceled the interview. It was a PR hit. It was PR spin. And I told you, Dan Patrick is not going to do that. I got you. It's not going to happen with Dan Patrick. But when you say stuff like that and you're very divisive when it comes to, the racial divide in the league, let's call it for what it is. The inclusion of the league, let's call it for what it is. It's right in front of us, the eye test. She's the type of person, she's a dangerous person. She's adding fuel to a fire that's about to just, engulf the league. Engulf the league. But she doesn't give a shit. She doesn't care. I'm sure some of it that CC doesn't want to be the bad guy and say, I want to trade. That's also an issue. Because she's saying all the right things. But, again, we're only human, man. Text of the day, comment of the day. There you go, Kevin. Oh, man. And if you think about this and all the drama about this, she's getting pounced on, all the stuff, had the commissioner taken care of it year one and the focus on basketball, that would be a good thing. I think for the entire league, Maria, would have been a good thing. She chose not to do that. The commissioner comes out and says she's pretty much advocating for violence in the league because of the physical nature of the league. And what happens is when the referees can't control the game and they have no control over the game, what the hell happens? Players, the inmates, they're going to run the friggin' asylum, man. Period. Period. Totally agree with you about the sabotage. I think it's very clear. And again, I know others might say that's too harsh of a word, but, it seems as though from you guys commenting today nonstop, alienate. That's what happens when you play favorites and you start to alienate your best players. Just keep a watchful eye on the next several games, because if you log her minutes and they're right around the 15 plus, and then you come up with this rest, or we didn't like what we saw in practice with her back, and then she comes out and says, I want to play, I want to be out there, that's an issue. Then you got to start to question what the hell's going on with the training staff. Or are they not being transparent, which, again, and I hate to go down the rabbit hole, also affects the betting line. It also affects the betting line. Someone sent me on X, they said, you got to talk about this, Q. They're shaving points. I said, let me do a little more due diligence, a little more research. Let me ask around first. Let me check out some things. Who the hell knows what's going on? But that could be a conversation, a topic for another day. But it does affect the betting line if you think she's going to be on the floor or not, and certainly her player props, right? And we saw that over the weekend, by the way, in combat sports. We saw with the UFC, with Conor McGregor, when the whole line shifted and he friggin' threw a kick and tore his leg, tore his ACL, whatever the hell he did. Shouldn't have been out there in the first place. I mean, you want to know how much money was made that night? So, yeah, everything, I feel as though it always comes down to money. The buck, the bottom line. That's where it comes down to. So just watch. Watch going forward, the minutes. And as you get closer, you're going to hear a lot more buzz. As we get closer to the trade deadline, you're going to hear a lot of buzz. You're going to hear a substantial amount of buzz. So just got to keep a watchful eye. I'm fascinated to see what happens. I'm fascinated. Cable of God, mate. England was due. Oh, this was from... So I got one of my soccer guys chiming in on one of my shorts from the other day that I was talking about the paranoia and maybe the bias towards Argentina in the World Cup, and then obviously Norway and England, the robbery that was. So I guess he's a little late to the party as we're talking some hoops. But he put out the mate, right? He put out the mate. I definitely heard, don't effing do it. What? Don't do what? What are we talking about, Michael? I definitely heard, don't effing do it. What? You got to fill me in on that one. We talking about the hand of God, the cable guy? You don't want me to mush something? You don't want me to kibosh something? What is it? You don't want me to kibosh Spain? Oh, the betting line? Is that what we were talking about? The betting line? The point shaving? Can you imagine a point shaving? If you watch these games as closely as I do, and probably some of you guys do, you might suspect there's point shaving in the league by the way they shoot the basketball. Right? I mean, it does look bad sometimes. You're like, what the hell is going on here, man? What is going on? Mel chimes in, Q, what's your scenario for Los Angeles? I already laid it out. They fired their GM, Reagan Pebley. Did not work out. They got some bad contracts. They got some players on expiring contracts. They're trying to build. They're trying to put fannies in the seats. You got the new CBA. You got Magic Johnson. He's got his ear to the grindstone. He loves Caitlin Clark. They traded Jackson. They got Brink. They got some older players I mentioned. It's a fit. It's a fit. When they acquired Casey Plum, that was a sign-in trade. That was a blockbuster. And by the way, it came at the expense of the number 2 overall pick in 2025. And that's when Seattle took Malonga, who's a beast. She's a hell of a player. And as much as Plum brings to the table, you probably want to have DM. And Plum's also, dealing with some injuries. And she's got the expiring contract, and she's getting older. So that's kind of how I laid it out. Sharon on X chimes in, cute. Just look at this picture. You're 100% correct. The eyeball test. Yeah, she looks miserable. And I'm not laughing at her. That's not what I'm doing. The whole situation is just, it's malpractice on so many levels, man. It is malpractice. And look, Mitchell, don't leave thinking. Mitchell is a hell of a player, man. She's having a great year. I think sometimes the shot selection, little lapse on defense, and I think, again, as a whole, we've seen it. She's playing really well. She's an all-star. Again, people get all bent out of shape when you start to talk about MVPs and who should be in the MVP conversation. To me, again, at the end of the day, it's subjective, right? We'll see as the season wears on. We see who rises to the top, but there's no healthy place where Mitchell and Clark on the floor at the same time with Stephanie White as the head coach. It just doesn't seem like it's a fit. To me, it's not feasible. It's not doable. So something has to give. No, you said some friends will say, oh. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you heard don't effing do it. Oh, with the wedding analogy. Okay, yeah. Dr. Alexander, excellent catch there. Thank you very much. Practicing good medicine, I hope. Yes. Correct. You know exactly what I'm talking. It's like anything. Oh man, I'm getting ready to make that move. I'm getting ready to buy that house. You have like 2 or 3 that are so excited. Let's go out all night. Little smoke and joke, little hot toddy, beverage of the choice. Let's go. Here we go. And then you have the 2 that are like, oh man, that's great, right? Then you have the one that's sitting there saying, man, what are the taxes like? Then you have the other one that says, don't do it, rent. Yeah, don't effing do it. Yes, 100%. Some friends will say, oh, yeah, great. Some will say, and yeah. Yep. Yeah. We all have that, by the way. Do we not? We all have that, those friends. And that's what friends are for, right? I mean, not the song, but that's why we have friends. Because, you always have the ones that no matter what, you can fall on your ass 1,000 times, and they're still going to, give you the props for getting up and trying, right? Then you got the ones that are going to mock you, but they're still eventually going to put their arm around you. And then you got the ones that are going to sit there and say, yo, man, give it up. Just stop. They're all honest in a way. And I think right now she is being pulled in 1,000 different directions. And that's tough. That is tough. All right, we're going to start wrapping up. You guys, phenomenal, man. Like I said, this is On Cue. I'm your host, Rich Quinones. If you guys like the show, the content, the engagement, I try to answer every single solitary comment. So if you guys hit me up on the video, on demand after, I promise you I will get back to you. I engage. The fact that you guys hung with me for over 2 hours means everything. Like I said, the best you can do is just subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share. And certainly, I'm going to check out those other channels that you mentioned. But yeah, trade deadline right around the corner. And as we start the show off, I think there should be a little optimism. Because if she's moved, I think it's going to be the best thing for the Indiana Fever franchise in the long term and the best thing for Caitlin Clark. It sounds foolish to say right now. It really does. But I just don't see a fit for her on the floor with this coaching staff. And the more they win, and the more Mitchell produces, then all of a sudden she is starting to take a back seat. And the coach, someone's going to sit there and say, the coach has figured it out. She is making it all work. That's all. She's making it all work. That's a little rough, right? I mean, come on now. BM grip, that's a little rough. You don't like Caitlin Clark? Come on. That's all right. There's always one in the group. She's a great player. it's a shame that they literally glossed over the 600 assist. I mean, she's broken so many records. They will not allow her to continue down this path. That's all. They just won't. So they got to come up to some type of resolution. Maybe you play it out, but I can't envision if they get bounced early or they struggle or there's a blow up or there's an incident, another sideline spat, and they go quietly into the night come playoff time, then the organization, they'll have to look at that head coach and they'll have to make a decision because she has alienated this team. She has created this divide. She has basically made it known that she is not going to allow Caitlin Clark to succeed and thrive and, basically get her flowers. All right, later on in the week for the NFL fans, we're going to be dropping some new shows. NBA heavy later this week as well. So definitely keep it locked in. Jonathan Marshall, host of Marshall Time Pod, is going to join me. The LeBron Watch continues. We will dive into all the movement in the NBA. We're going to also tap in, believe it or not, to a little NFL training camp right around the corner. David chimes in. CC to the Sparks. Again, I've been pushing it. David, you're with me, unlike everyone else. Maria. Glad I ran into you. And right back at you, Maria. Nice job. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment. And I appreciate that greatly. Gracias por tu tiempo. All right. You guys have a wonderful Sports Monday, our Man Up Monday edition of On Cue, powered by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, fresh roasted coffee, 3 Brooks Bourbon, get ready with tea, Pliable in Belmar. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. We will be back on the air mañana. Subscribe to the channel. You'll get the notifications. We're going to fire off as we typically do in the afternoon during the week. A little more NBA, a little more NFL later on the week, and who knows, maybe the rumors, maybe I planted the seed. Maybe someone from that organization, maybe Magic's listening in right now, and he's saying, you know what, Q's on it. I'm on the phone right now. I'm on the horn. Let's give up 5 first-round draft picks. Let's call it a day. Let's get her the hell out of Indiana right here to Showtime and start running the show, winning some basketball games, winning a title, and I'll look like a genius. And then you can give me all the credit, Magic. Thank you very much. All right, you guys have a wonderful Sports Monday. As always, be safe, be sound. This has been On Cue. I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Hasta luego, buen día.